All right, welcome to the conversation on the TYT network. Uh, you know that Donald Trump has received a huge percentage of the evangelical vote. In fact, I talk about this on the show all the time. Back in 2016, he got 81% of the white evangelical vote, and they had an astounding, record breaking, unbelievable 85% voter turnout. So they definitively decided the 2016 election. That is certainly part of the conversation we're going to have with Catherine Stewart, who joins us now, who's the author of The Power Worshippers, a book that has come out recently. And it connects Trump and the evangelical movement and Christian nationalism. And I want to understand about those connections better, and I want to understand the movement better. So, Catherine, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, no problem. So, first of all, as you write about in the book, Donald Trump in his personal life appears to be the exact antithesis of what evangelical right-wing leaders have been asking for in public life for as long as I've been alive. In fact, if he was a Democrat, they might think that he's the Antichrist. So why are they backing this guy that doesn't match anything they have ever said about morality?
A lot of it has to do with judges. The movement derives a lot of its strategic direction from the right-wing legal advocacy groups like the Alliance Defending Freedom, Liberty Counsel. Look, to date, Trump has appointed something like 192 justices to the federal judiciary. That's over 22% of the federal judiciary. So they know that they're advancing a lot of their agenda through the courts, and they know that by appointing, getting behind someone like Trump, he's going to give them what they want on that level. Another reason is because a lot of the funders of the movement, the sort of plutocratic funders of the movement, have allied themselves with a kind of hyper-conservative, almost libertarian wing of the Republican Party. And so they feel like he's going to enact economic policies that are favorable to their pocketbooks. But, there's something else about Trump that appeals to this movement. He's more of an authoritarian leader. The movement doesn't really broadly support modern democracy, the Constitution as it was written, or sort of representative democracy. They seem to have very little respect for the two-party system. So there's something in the sort of autocratic style, authoritarian style that Trump represents that appeals to this movement.
Look, I'll probably be harsher than you in this assessment. I don't know, you might not. It's not normally what you get out of a host, but so now there's so many different angles to go here. Number one is to find out what their true intent is, because they told us their intent through all these years was family values. We really want to make sure we keep families together and loving and devoted and et cetera, and no improprieties. And they were so concerned about Bill Clinton because of the immorality he brought into the Oval Office, et cetera. So now it's super obvious that that was a lie, that they don't care about that at all. Not one smidge, couldn't care less. Donald Trump has had numerous mistresses. They've been porn stars. He's paid hush money to them, had sex with them while his wife was pregnant. I can go on and on and on. The
other thing is, I think they've completely blown their credibility on the idea that they support the family. I mean, they've sided with economic reactionaries that undermine the supports that families often need in order to be successful. And they've waged war on many of the health and social tools that family need to thrive, most visibly family planning. And as you mentioned on the issue of integrity of personal leadership, I mean, there's not much to say. You just point to Trump, and it's the definition of hypocrisy.
Yeah, so then that gets to the question of what do they actually care about? So they said morality, but it's definitive now, 100% proven that they don't care about morality at all, not 1%. So then what is it? Is it just that they think, no, abortion is more important than personal family values or personal values at all, or any degree of morality, personal morality? No, abortion and what other issues? Or is that a front for their true intent? So
Well, you know,
you study appropriate.
when leaders of the movement are talking to the rank and file, or when they're talking to pastors, conservative pastors, about the issues that they should communicate to their rank and file in order to get them to vote for the hyper-conservative political candidates the movement favors, it's all abortion all the time. But when they're talking to their political allies and their funders, they're advocating for a wide range of policy positions, economic policy, social policy, and foreign policy. So this is really a political movement that sort of hits home the fact that it's not just about the so-called culture war issues like abortion or same-sex marriage. They're really, a lot of what they're advocating is about money, about how they say the Bible favors low taxes for the rich, or no taxes, how the Bible favors minimal regulation of government, or no regulation of the minimal regulation for the environment. So it's really, they really kind of want to shift the country in a different direction in terms of our international alliances, in terms of our economic policy. They've already contributed to sort of hollowing out of the social safety net, and the policies that they advocate have intensified economic inequality to the point that, as many sociologists and economists have pointed out, we're really at kind of a record levels of economic inequality in this country. And interestingly, that precisely is what makes it so much harder for families to thrive.
Yeah. So, Catherine, and I get a distinction that you make from time to time that's very important for the audience to understand. There's a difference between the followers and the leaders. So the followers probably believed the stuff about morality when it was used as a talking point. I don't know if they still believe it, because there's a lot of cognitive dissonance that happens. The followers, the actual people who vote, an overwhelming majority of these right-wing evangelicals believe that abortion is a massive issue. And they believe a couple of other things. But their leaders use that to brainwash them.
So when I was researching my book, I went to all these right-wing policy meetings and gatherings and values voter summits. At the last one, Tony Perkins, who's the head of the sort of Family Research Council, one of the big right-wing policy groups, he gets up on stage with three enormous baby cribs, cribs filled with baby hats. And basically it's sort of a stunt. And he's communicating to people, this is the only issue that matters. But we have to remember, when Roe versus Wade was passed in 1973, a majority of Republican Protestants supported it. Let's not forget that Ronald Reagan signed the most liberal abortion law in 1967. Even Betty Ford hailed Roe v. Wade as a great, great decision. Barry Goldwater supported abortion law liberalization early in his career. But so what happened is that over time, leaders of the movement recognized a sort of earlier version of the movement, a sort of intellectual predecessor called the New Right, recognized that they needed an issue that was going to unite conservative Protestants, fundamentalists, and conservative Catholics, and some others. And they, went through a laundry list of to see if they sort of consider different issues, and they sort of settled on abortion as an issue that could kind of make it work. And over time, pro-choice or nuanced voices were purged from the Republican Party. So what we're seeing today is a kind of almost like a new religion. It's almost like a pro-life religion, because they know if they can get people to sign on to that one issue, they can control their vote.
They don't actually care about life. I mean, I give you dozens of examples, but Sheriff Clark in Milwaukee let a woman who was delivering, he wouldn't get her medical help. She was chained up, and her baby died in delivery. Not one Republican cared. Not one religious leader cared. If you were pro-life, that's what you argued for your whole life. The followers actually believe it, because that's the whole point of brainwashing and propaganda. The leaders don't believe any of it. They're total frauds. So now, then that goes to, what do the leaders actually want?
Believe it or not, access to public money. I mean, this is really obvious in the field. I'll just give you one example of education, where some of these legal advocacy groups that I mentioned earlier have placed a case before the Supreme Court involving a school district in Montana. There's the religiously motivated voucher advocates who want even more voucher funding than they're already getting. So America spends something like $500 billion every year on public K through 12. And these religiously motivated voucher advocates know that if they can open the floodgates more, the money's going to flow without end. So a lot of what and right now it goes even further. 8 federal agencies under the Trump administration are renegotiating how they can access public money to deliver services and essential services in many instances, and maintain a license to discriminate, maintain discrimination in hiring. And if the money is delivered in certain ways, then they can actually even mandate that people attend church services if they're going to receive those services, or can be proselytized to. So I think the role of the demand for access to public money is a really underestimated part of this movement. And as we know, when some of that money flows into sort of religious, sort of conservative religious organizations, a certain amount of it sort of goes up the food chain into sort of right-wing policy groups and sort of the political infrastructure of the movement. I mean, the movement has invested for decades in all the tools of modern political campaigns. They've invested in data, media, messaging, a really substantial get out the vote machine.
Catherine Stewart, thank you so much for joining us. It's called The Power Worshippers. Everybody check out the book, and their connection to Trump is fascinating and scary, because if you wanted to have someone lead an anti-democratic movement, well, boy, it looks like they got the right guy. So we're going to find out if it further succeeds in 2020. Catherine, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Cenk Uygur is not here today, which means that I will be able to talk during the show. No,
We'll see.
Poor Cenk, under the bus.
My God, if Jesus came back, how much would the Republicans hate him? Now you have to give away all of your possessions to the poor. Steve King would be like, oh, Weezy.
Cenk is oddly, scarily competitive.
Oh, it's insane. I play basketball against him. It's just like, how are you good at this?
The liberal mom says, Mark Thompson, have you ever thought about doing one of those tapes that soothe people to sleep? Like Mark Thompson reads the phone book. I'd buy it.
If you'll buy it, I'll do it.
Emilio D'Amelio writes in, John, you are so thick. I love you. That's what he wrote.
Pork Chop Express writes in and says John Iadarola needs a new jacket.
Whoa.
Those 24-inch pythons are about to burst out of his sleeve.
Gun, baby.
You know, the 2 people here said that their moms were both in love with you over Beauty and the Beast?
Mm-hmm. That's an improvement. I usually get grandmothers.
The Hour of Fire is brought to you by Brooke, and Brooke.
Yes, Brooke's got it.
Okay.
Take it.
All
you
right.
guys know I really like compliments.
Charlie Turk.
No, wait a minute, don't you dare.
Chemical castration when we return from the break.
All right, so that's it. We will settle it.
I want to see this.
Did Anna comment on my tan yet? No, she hasn't. Scandal at TYT.
You're a good bosser.
But Anna did say that I come in here today with a fresh mind. That's all I'm about. I'm about a fresh mind.
I can't with you right now. Okay?
She just can't. She can't, but nonetheless, we have to for another 3 hours. I'm back, baby. Let's rip in the Republicans. See, don't miss the live show.
That's great.
Tell people, if you're a member, you get the whole live show whenever you want, because this stuff doesn't go into any of the clips.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT! The place is like 95% TYT on.
You guys, the Young Turks, which is my favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Cenk and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
All the people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think, one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army, there might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
People work hard for what they have, and if you want more, you gotta do it yourself.
Stock stories bring headlines to life in an instant, whether you work on Wall Street or in Wichita. Stock report cards and professional analyst buy and sell ratings help gut check your thought process. Buy stock, take profits, and manage risk. And the Idea Feed is your daily one-stop investment shop with videos that unpack today's money-moving headlines in under 3 minutes because you need ideas, not lectures. And live in-app chat for when you want to talk to someone, but you don't actually want to talk.
So what'd you think?
With unlimited commission-free stock trades and great ideas from real traders. Visit doe.com/TYT.
Here at TYT, we strive to instill confidence in our voters by educating them with factual, reliable, and easy to understand political information. And that's why we've partnered with Politiscope. Politiscope is the easiest way to understand the policies that your elected officials vote for and against. They also have the same goal of changing the perception of politics and reshaping the way political information is sought out and consumed. Politiscope strips away all the unnecessary complexity of politics and empowers voters with raw, unbiased information about elected officials and the policies they support. You can download the Politiscope app on the App Store or on the Google Play Store.
Welcome back to the conversation on the TYT Network. We've got a great guest for you now. Her name is Zara Burton. She's the founder of Global Reporters for the Caribbean, and she's also the lead reporter for 18 North Investigations. Zara, it's been a long time. Welcome back to the Young Turks.
Yeah, it's been a long time and a pleasure. I mean, I think some of you viewers know the background that, you know, we both started Young Turks way back together at some point or another, and you've done a really fabulous job of making it grow. So it's really great to be back.
Thank you. It's probably been over a decade since you've been on.
I think so.
Amazing. Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're doing great journalism. So tell us what 18 Degrees North is.
The name, by the way, is the geographic coordinates of Jamaica. And so 18 Degrees North focuses on investigative journalism that is important to the Caribbean and of importance to the world, even though it comes from the Caribbean. And so we'll do a lot of stories based on political corruption. We'll do a lot of stories based on environmental degradation. We have stories that are related to, for instance, the offshore companies being registered in some of the Caribbean islands. That's a huge business for certain individuals in the Caribbean. But then there's, of course, the corrupt aspect, whether it's Russians who are hiding their money there, that kind of thing. So we do a lot of stories that impact the world, but just happen to be here in the Caribbean.
Zara, it's hard enough to do hard-hitting journalism in America. There's this mythology that, oh my God, America has this great free press. But in reality, in my opinion, politically, they basically work for the establishment. And but there's wonderful journalists here. There's great journalists that have tremendous courage that do work in places like Russia and China, where they're oppressed. So since a lot of the audience is not familiar with how the governments deal with the press in the Caribbean, how has 18 Degrees North been received, given that you guys do hard-hitting journalism and sometimes investigate corruption? Normally, governments don't like that. So what's been the reaction?
Oh, well, our prime minister, the current one, he sued me. That was the reaction. I did a story on him being, his big house. And this big house, you really ask the question, how was it paid for, especially given the fact that he was basically a lifelong politician. And this house was millions of US dollars, supposedly valued at. And so the questions I raised were along the lines of, okay, where did he get this money? And because I raised those questions, I was sued, and we had to go into mediation, and it was essentially resolved under confidential terms. But the truth is that I reserve the right to rebroadcast. The thing is up on the internet, on YouTube. And the station here, which is TVJ, when I submitted it for rebroadcasting, they actually decided against rebroadcasting it, even though we won the rights to rebroadcast it. So, you know, I have some problems with press freedom, because I think we even have a higher ranking than the United States does. But the truth is, in the same way that you sometimes second guess your ranking, I second guess ours too.
So same the world over. You challenge power and you're going to have issues. Well, I love that you're challenging power. So I want to actually juxtapose it because you work for the press here in America, including for Bloomberg News. But before we do that, so where can people find out more about 18 Degrees North? Where can they get your journalism if they want to see that story and others?
Well, that story right now is up on YouTube. So anybody can go and just Google Andrew Honus's Big House, 18 Degrees North. That investigation will come out. You can have a view of it and leave a comment or two and see the kind of journalism that we do. Now, in terms of the investigations newsletter, it's 18DN for 18 Degrees North, but it's 18dn.substack.com. It's a newsletter. It's a paid subscription service. And by the way, the reason that we've gone into a paid subscription service is from a standpoint that when we did, for instance, the Big House investigation, immediately before we went to air, just the teaser alone, our sponsor bailed on us. And so the financial implications are also quite pertinent as well and harmful to investigative journalism. And so because we kind of wanted to tidy up this being beholden to, let us say, company interests or to political interests, it's not that we won't do business with them. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we would prefer a model whereby the individuals, the citizens, the residents, the diaspora, if they're interested in what it is that we're doing, they will support our journalism, the kind of journalism that we bring, which is independent journalism.
And look, it's the same the world over in terms of financial incentives, disincentives, and pressures. So you used to work at Bloomberg News. There was a story out about a week ago saying that they buried a story about Chinese leaders and their houses, literally their mansions, their money, because China said we'll kick out Bloomberg News and Bloomberg from all of China, and Bloomberg mainly makes his money from Bloomberg terminals and had a ton of money at stake, so they spiked the story. But what's your experience in the Caribbean overall, not just Jamaica, because you guys cover the whole Caribbean, versus when you were here in the U.S. and you were an anchor for Bloomberg News?
Controversy was not something that was my MO at Bloomberg TV. I have to be honest about that. So that is not something that I had any experience with at all, being in television while at Bloomberg. What I can tell you is one of the things that really caused me to do this was when I saw Mr. Bloomberg running for president. And there was an interview, I forget which outlet it was, but the point is that I was really surprised that he didn't promote the idea that his news organization should cover him independently, regardless of the situation, for the betterment of the United States in terms of journalism coverage and that kind of thing. It was more like, well, these reporters, they do need to kind of be careful and know that where their bread is buttered. And I thought that was not cool.
How long have you been doing 18 Degrees North now?
2013.
Okay, wow. So it's been 7 years. Do you remember the first story you had that was controversial?
The major story that I'm known for that was the most controversial was that one that I mentioned to you. It was about, and it was controversial, I believe, because I got sued for it. I would say to you that I've done other stories, though, about politicians being outstanding on their property taxes. I've done other stories as well about lottery scamming in Jamaica and how it's ripping off individuals, elderly couples or people in the United States, and how some of us, there's a section of the society that believes that the lottery scamming, even though they're scamming individuals out of their life savings, that's considered to be reparations, money for slavery, which I totally disagree with. And there's a song right now, as a matter of fact, that has used my report on lottery scamming in their song, praising lottery scamming without my permission. So that's another drama that I have to deal with. But anyway, yeah.
So, well, look, Zara has a spirit that cannot be broken. So if you're going to come for her, you better come correct. So, all right. One more thing here as we're running short on time. How has the different Caribbean countries handled coronavirus? How's it going over there now?
Well, I can tell you where I am right now here in Jamaica. There's a press conference going on as we speak, and that's the latest figure, I think, was just given of 364 cases, and it doesn't sound like a lot when it compared to the United States, but you also have to understand that we were doing pretty well by all standards, except for the fact that we weren't testing enough. And so the government here got called out on that issue of not testing enough. And so they've really started to ramp up testing. And so our cases essentially have gone up significantly since then. In terms of the rest of the Caribbean, you are seeing conversations now about when to reopen. Unfortunately, and that's a good thing for the entire Caribbean, by the way. Unfortunately for us here in Jamaica, we're not at the conversation yet where we're talking about reopening, unfortunately.
Okay. All right, everybody check out 18 Degrees North. That's 18dn.substack.com.
You got that right. Thanks.
All right, sounds good. And everybody out there, always support great, fearless journalists. And Zara certainly is that, and so is 18 Degrees North. All right, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
What we were finding was, and the results I think have been good. Florida's ground zero for the nursing home. I mean, we're God's waiting room. We have a huge number of facilities, a huge number of residents, but there were also instances in which there was no evidence that any of the staff were sick initially.
This is no time to act stupidly. Period. I don't know how else to say it.
Okay, Cenk Uygur, Annika Sparing with you guys. I'm in a weird, good mood. Those are always fun shows. So, Anna, I have a number of surprises because I come packed with surprises.
I can't wait. I'm really glad. Looking forward to the rundown getting derailed by your surprises.
Okay. No one does exasperated like Annika Sparing. Okay.
True.
Okay, so, and I am the exasperator. So,
you know I will say, for the first time, you've chosen a nickname for yourself that makes absolute sense. I like it. The exacerbator. Yeah. I can never say that word correctly.
Well, I
always say exacerbator, but that's not what.
Now we're getting into weird territory. We're just gonna leave it right there and move on. We're moving on.
You're right. You're right. Go.
Okay. All right. So. Anyways, May 5th, honestly, is when all the surprises come. There's at least one surprise. Okay. Also, I'm unveiling the 5-year plan. It's over. We have it. We've already won. Boom, 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 boom. Heart attack, explosion for the establishment. It just turns out it's 5 years from now. But still, I unveil the plan on May 5th. We have the regular show at 6 o'clock Eastern, and then boom, a 3-hour show. 3 hours of my plans. No, first hour is my plans. Second hour, we talk to you guys, and we see from you guys, folks from the audience, and we talk about Young Turks a little bit more, and then we play games in the third hour. But it's Giving Tuesday too. Okay, so we have to come up with a name for it. I don't know if it's 555. May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. It's Giving Tuesday. We're gonna come up with something. It's going to be announced. But anyway, don't miss Tuesday's show. All right, number 2, I got a shirt here. Here we go. Keep calm. Don't forget to wash your hands. Okay, but these T-shirts at shoptyt.com, they're the new toilet paper. They're running out of stock. You got to get them now. Look, I don't want to say panic. It's not right to panic, but I am saying shoptyt.com. The other thing I'm saying is that 15% off right now, site-wide, the entire website. Okay, it's 15 off, 15 off.
Do the fine folks over at ShopTYT know that you just referred to their T-shirts as the new toilet paper?
I'm saying.
Do you think that went through?
Yeah, they're gonna. No, it's gonna run out. It's gonna run out. Then you're gonna say to me, "Hey, Jake, where's my new toilet paper?" ShopTYT.com. Okay, but don't leave it in your car. People break in. All right, one last bit of madness, the thermometer. So we did rejigger the math. Let's be honest. We're playing with the math here. But to get to our original 200,000 for April, it turns out we needed 20,000 more. Hello, all of a sudden, yesterday, $7,301. Let me see it at tyt.com/go. There's the thermometer. But we only have 3 days left, so that's also a little bit of time to panic there. We need to raise about $13,000 in 3 days. Can we do it? Hello. Young Turks, tyt.com/go. That's all I'm saying. All right, Casper, I'm done with my madness. Go.
All right, we're going to start off with something a little different today. Of course, coronavirus is going to dominate our news cycle, but we're going to talk about UFOs right at the top. So, the Pentagon has released 3 UFO videos taken by Navy pilots in 2004 and also in 2015. These are some images and videos that you might have already seen online because it was leaked in 2007 and then in 2017. But now the Pentagon has declassified the videos. They have confirmed that those sightings are, in fact, unidentified flying objects. So The Guardian reports that the videos had been circulating in the public domain after unauthorized releases in 2007 and 2017. Want to know by who? By the lead singer of Blink-182. And I'm not even kidding. Let me keep going, though. They also added that the aerial phenomena observed in the videos remain characterized as unidentified. The 2004 video shows an incident that happened 100 miles over the Pacific, according to the New York Times. 2 Navy fighter pilots found an oblong object hovering above the water. It then flew quickly away. It accelerated like nothing I've ever seen, one of the pilots said. Now, there's one other video from 2015 that I would love to show you all. And again, this was one other video that was filmed by the Navy. Take a look.
Dude, this is a drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all we're going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is an LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotating.
Okay, Anna, we showed those videos before. This is just the government saying, yes, it's true. There are literally unidentified flying objects. They're here, to which I would like to add, do it. Damn, I need the soundboard. That was not a good alien beep. Okay, anyway.
How much worse do things need to get? Like, I've had enough. Okay, like now there's confirmation, like we're going to be invaded by aliens. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Donald Trump's president. He's the most incompetent person on the planet. Like, what else are they going to add? Go ahead, universe. Add more, please, because we're not stressed out enough.
Well, look, this is perfect, actually, because you want to talk about stressed out. Imagine the aliens land and they say, take me to your leader. And we're like, no, please, I'm begging you, come back another time. Give us 9 months. Okay, give us a year.
I mean, they checked in though. They're like, oh, let's do a little exploring. Let's see what's going on in this like planet Earth situation. They took a good hard look and they're like, yeah, we're good. Bye. They haven't come back since. They're over it.
They reported no intelligent life forms down here. They're like, right. You should see who they chose as their leader. We are Audi 5000 gone. Okay, never to return again. Give him another 1,000 years. See if it gets any better. Okay, I should note for the record that every video we're showing you, other than the Pentagon video we clearly labeled before, is fake. Okay, the Pentagon video is real. The one where you heard the Navy pilots talking. Every other one, we're just playing around. Okay, like that.
That one's definitely real. No, that happened.
Okay, but seriously. Okay, now. How crazy, putting kidding aside, guys, the videos as we showed you are from before Trump. This has nothing to do with Trump, okay? Like, I joke around online and nobody, and unlike Trump, it actually is sarcasm, but no one can understand sarcasm. They're like, oh yeah, you don't want us to take him to the leader. When Obama was leader back then, or Joe Bush was leader back then, okay? They would have to take him to that, huh? Did you know that? Yeah, we know that. We can read the dates. Okay, anyway, but in reality, that is massive news when the United States government says, yes, there are unidentified flying objects. In other videos, and we've shown them to you before, they hover, and then boom, gone. They move so fast that some of our top pilots in the U.S. Armed Forces are like, no, that is impossible. And they say it on tape. You hear the pilots going, no way. And so having seen now 2-3 of these videos, it's amazing. So there are two possible explanations. There's probably many more than that, but the two big ones are somebody on this planet has got way better technology than we realized. So my God, if that's China, watch out. Okay, we don't have a chance. So let's go a little easier on China. I have no idea, obviously. Okay, but the second possibility is, yeah, it's life forms from not this planet. Now, everything is called a conspiracy theory. Like these days, if like JFK not killed by Lee Harvey Oswald is a conspiracy theory. Ridiculous. Of course he wasn't killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. No rational person actually believes that. But since the government said, nope, he was, everything else is a conspiracy theory. And so aliens were a conspiracy theory because the government had never acknowledged them. When in reality, when you look at the odds, it depends on what you mean by aliens. Some sort of life form on a different planet is at near certainty, and I'm being conservative by saying near. Given the number of planets that exist in the universe, of course there's alien life forms. It's ridiculous not to think there is. Whether they can come here was a different question. But now it's no longer a conspiracy theory because the government has officially said, not that there are aliens, again, let's be clear about that, but that there are these unidentified flying objects, and they have literally no earthly idea what they are and who's in them. And they do not look like they are technology that is made on this planet. That's just, I know it feels really weird and awkward saying that and uncomfortable, but that's true. And that's a hell of a thing, man. That's a hell of a thing. So yeah. I guess they're here. It's
great. Great news. So we have other news to share with you. Let's go back to what's happening on planet Earth. But
by the way, just real quick. Yeah. First of all, it is happening on planet Earth, apparently. I did want to say two more things about it. So, number one, Harry Reid put out a tweet saying, this is the tip of the iceberg. Now, Harry Reid was the former Senate Majority Leader. So he's seen the government files. And he said the government should put out, for national security reasons, all the info they have on this matter, because it is a lot more. So, wow, that's really interesting. And number two, for all these years, all these people said that they saw these objects. And since no government had said yes, like all the reporters, everybody was like, no, everybody's a liar, 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 liar. No, you're all imagining it. You're all nuts, right? Now the government says, yes, it's real. And now all of a sudden, okay, now you're all back to being sane. Okay, so look, my point there is less about aliens and more about American press. The government is not the arbiter of truth. You should actually do real investigations on your own and find out whether things are true or not true. And don't just wait for the government to call something officially true. All right, now I'm done with my rant. Sorry, Anna. Go to the second story.
All right. So, Vice President Mike Pence visited the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota and happened to be the only one who did something significantly different from the people surrounding him. Let's take a quick look at the video and see if you can figure out what it is.
Thank you. Very impressive.
We'll talk later.
Well done.
Thank
well
you.
done.
Dr. Joyner, good to see you. Tim, good to see you.
So there were more than 10 people surrounding him. He's in a clinic where they have pretty strict guidelines in regard to wearing masks and maintaining social distancing. And Pence didn't think that he needed to follow the rules. He was not wearing a mask. The Mayo Clinic tweeted, then deleted a message that it informed Pence of its masking policy prior to his arrival in Rochester. So he was very much aware of what the rules were, but decided against wearing the mask anyway. When reporters asked him about it, he essentially answered and said that he gets tested on a regular basis. He has no symptoms of coronavirus. Therefore, he's not concerned about spreading it to anyone. The vice president later presided over a roundtable discussion with Mayo Clinic officials to discuss their efforts to fight the coronavirus. Pence still did not wear a mask, even as every Food and Drug Administration commissioner, Stephen Hahn, and every other individual at the table did. And so this is just the way it works. Trump was asked previously if he ever plans on wearing a mask publicly, and his answer was, I don't know, somehow sitting in the Oval Office behind that beautiful, resolute desk. I think wearing a face mask as I greet presidents, prime ministers, dictators, kings, queens, I don't know. Somehow I don't see it for myself. I just don't. Maybe I'll change my mind, but this will pass, and hopefully it'll pass very quickly. Clearly it hasn't passed really quickly. But what we do know is that Vice President Mike Pence, refers to his wife as mother. So if he's worried about the way he appears and whether he looks weak in front of dictators or anything like that, I would argue that the mask is nothing compared to, some of the things that he said about his relationship with his wife publicly.
Well, that leads me to speculation about whether mother doesn't want him to wear the mask or if it's Papa Donald Trump. And my guess is it's daddy, because Trump cares a lot about appearances. And remember, he famously was down on Chris Christie because he was overweight. He was down on John Bolton initially because he thought he had a funny-looking mustache. Both of those things are true, but not the reason that you should make decisions at a governmental level. And it should be based on competence, not on facial hair. But does Pence think that Trump will lose respect for him if he wears a mask? Very likely. Given those quotes, very, very likely. So, and that's his daddy, and he's got to keep daddy happy. But I'm amused by one more quote that Pence gave. He said, "Since I don't have the coronavirus, I thought it'd be a good opportunity for me to be here, to be able to speak to these researchers, these incredible healthcare personnel, and look them in the eye and say thank you." I'm pretty sure you could look them in the eye if you're wearing a mask, unless you're wearing it like some sort of pirate or governor of Florida or something, and you're putting it on like this. But yeah, it doesn't cover up your eyes. You can still look them in the eye. No, there's no reason not to wear a mask unless you think it makes you look unmanly or something like that. And that's only an idiot at the level of Donald Trump would think that. So I don't even think Pence is that stupid. So my guess is he's doing it to make sure that Trump doesn't lose respect for him.
Yeah, look, there's the practical reason for wearing a mask, and that's to prevent the spread of coronavirus. And what we do know is that there are all sorts of people out there who have the virus, but they're asymptomatic and they can spread the virus even though they have no symptoms. So he claims that he's getting tested on a regular basis. Sure, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But when was the last time he got tested? And by the way, like, the whole point of leadership is to lead by example. So if you're in the Mayo Clinic and you're speaking to researchers and you're just willingly breaking the rules and broadcasting it for the entire country to see, it kind of signals that this isn't serious. Average people who have been told to wear the mask when they're outdoors or in a grocery store don't really need to do it, because why? Our leaders aren't doing it. It's not really that big of a deal. No, the country's a mess. It really is. I mean, the unwillingness to listen to the social distancing guidelines, I mean, we're seeing that throughout the country. A bunch of governors have already begun opening their states, opening up businesses. Later this week on Thursday, the social distancing guidelines in Texas are set to expire and they will not be renewed. So we'll see how this all plays out. But right now, public health officials are concerned that all our efforts in flattening the curve will be undone thanks to a bunch of irresponsible elected officials throughout the country who just don't take anything seriously other than, you know, their profits and their political careers.
Now, I know the right wing, man. I know it. When they see him without a mask, I guarantee you they're going to get in their pickup truck and be like, yeah, I knew it. I knew it. Our guys were the real men. Okay, I know them. I know they're going to think that's a tough guy thing to do. What would Clint Eastwood do? No, he'd endanger himself and all around him. That's what he would do. So that's what Mike Pence is doing. By the way, he should ask Boris Johnson how that goes. Boris Johnson famously went to a hospital and shook hands with coronavirus patients because he wanted to be like Lady Di. She had done that with AIDS patients, but you get AIDS by having sex, not by shaking hands. You get coronavirus by shaking hands. Guess what Boris Johnson got? Coronavirus. And then eventually he had to go to the hospital and to the ICU, nearly died. So I hope that doesn't happen to Pence. But for all him trying to impress Trump, he might bring back a little extra gift for Trump when he gets back from this trip. I hope not. But given that he's going around like that in an enclosed space, those guidelines are no joke. They're not fake. They're real. And the virus is in the air. And if you're in an enclosed space, as you'll see in a prison story we're going to do in a little bit on the show, there's an excellent chance you'll get it. So they should test them immediately after.
Well, we got to take a break, but when we come back, we have an important story demonstrating dumb people who do dumb things. Don't miss it. We'll be right back.
Oh, it's this. No, but guys, this one is so good. You're going to love this one, guys. TYT.
They know.
Let's go.
Many of you already know that the TYT Army has been officially organizing for the past year, and the Army is constantly growing, too strong. They're making decisions on which candidates and elected officials to help, and always coming up with ways to inform people about progressive policies. I love that. Now, we want to give a huge shout out to some special volunteers and highlight accomplishments of our TYT Army. You're making all the difference. In Ohio, after Captain Aysun Gökoğlu organized her first meetup to bring TYT supporters together, she then organized for them to help candidate Morgan Harper, who is their local Just Democrat, who has, of course, signed the Progressive Economic Pledge. Look, guys, this is how it's done. I love that they're doing this. So here's what Aysun had to say. We had an event at Justice Democrat Morgan Harper's headquarters in Columbus. Thanks to support from our TYT Army National team, we did a text bank that helped us get 4 more volunteers to attend. And they're considering canvassing too. So exciting to get people more involved by planning these events. Thank you, Ison and team, for getting out there and making a real difference. Every single person matters. You are TYT. To learn more about the TYT Army and how you can help from home or even start your own team, head to tyt.com/army. And PS, check your spam folder for lost emails to stay up to date with our events.
Like all small businesses, we're struggling through this pandemic right now. We are doing a drive to keep TYT healthy. We want to be able to keep doing it, and it's been a Herculean task.
Ready for transport.
We're trying to raise $2 million overall, $200,000 a month if we can. If you can, and only if you can, tyt.com/go. Seriously, because we can't sustain this show without you. So thank you for making all this possible.
Where else can I feel as free as I do here to do what I do? And I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it weren't for all the people who have really carried us throughout the years.
You're our ultimate boss. We report to you guys, and if you don't like what we're doing on air or we're not telling the truth, boom, you fire us.
We're not the Young Turks, you're the Young Turks.
Keep TYT alive, healthy, wonderful, awesome, independent, progressive. Keep it all those things. In fact, we have a new theme, Press On. Get it? It's a double meaning. tyt.com/go.
With Doe, you can turn your passions into potential investment opportunities. Whether it's cannabis, fashion, travel, video games, or anything in between, you tell them what you're interested in, and they'll help you uncover the investment potential. Doe provides your daily one-stop investment shop with lists of companies that relate to your personal interests, relevant news, and your favorite stocks and videos that unpack today's money-moving headlines in under 3 minutes. Go to doe.com/TYT.
Today, a terrible day for the internet, a terrible day for America. The internet as we know it is not going to exist anymore.
A real dark day for information, and yet another way that they're bleeding out the democracy.
We're now going to have these gatekeepers of information deciding what we can and can't see, and that's what scares me the most.
Whether you're conservative or progressive or anywhere in the middle, this is the one thing we should all agree to. Protect the internet, because the establishment is coming for it. Don't let them destroy the internet.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Cenk Ugranik is sparing with you guys. You guys do have some criticism of me. I'm going to read it because I'm a good guy. I'll get to that in a second. Nipple Pierce Cenk in Skinny Jeans writes in, the UFO B-roll is the best. LOL. Uber Progressive writes in, maybe they could help us solve climate change. Somebody learn to speak alien. There's some chance Trump already learned that. We're doing things bigly down here. I don't know about you guys. But nobody knows aliens better than I do. I wish that were true in some ways. Ariel says, Anna looks like she wants to shake her head in disappointment and laugh. LOL. That's when she's co-hosting with me. I feel like that's a perpetual state of being for Anna. Let's just be honest. Let's call it what it is. Comment. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, it rings volumes. YouTube super chat says, very stable genius writes in, UFO. Oh, this is all in caps. Only means we have no clue what it is. I know, but we're having fun. And plus, let's get real, it's not the French, okay? I'm just throwing out a random nationality, but it's not them. Young Turk Wolfpack says, welcome to TYT, Jessica. I got you a year membership. Much love. I don't know what's going on there, and I'm not positive who Jessica is, but I do know I love that you said that and you got them one. So awesome. You can do that through tyt.com/gift. You can join yourself through tyt.com/join. If you think we're not going to show you the thermometer, you're wrong, because there's been a little bit of movement. tyt.com/go is where you keep Young Turks on the air and sustainable. And this is our slogan, by the way, we press on. Oh God, that's so clever. $8,260. Can I see 20,000 in the next minute? All right. Fixed writes in on YouTube Super Chat. Let's fix it. I mean, let's face it. Pence thinks he's probably protected by the power of prayer. That's why he believes he doesn't need a mask. I could go on and on. I'll do one last one from Twitter. Real time, finally, the criticism. Jenk, epic alien sound fail. Get your kids to record some bites. Okay.
Yeah, for real.
All right, I hear you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a fun, cutie little kid story in the postgame. Okay, postgame's got a lot of fun, including that. So tyt.com/join. If you're on if you're watching on YouTube, join button down below. One of these. I can never figure out if it's here or here. All right, you figure it out for me. All right, Casper, go.
All right. As we all know, there are a number of anti-stay-at-home protests throughout the country. Some of those protests are taking place every Tuesday in Raleigh, North Carolina. The organization that started this protest, or at least this is what they're dubbing it, Reopen North Carolina, and one of the organizers actually ended up testing positive for coronavirus. So this is based on Fox News' reporting, by the way. Fox News reported that a recurring protest at the North Carolina State Capitol calling on Governor Roy Cooper to lift lockdown measures is scheduled to happen Tuesday, meaning today, despite its main organizer, Audrey Whitlock, announcing she tested positive for coronavirus. Now, she says that she had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and now that she is in the clear in her mind, it's safe to go out there and be part of these protests. But if you look at video, you'll see that most protesters aren't actually honoring the social distancing guidelines, and the virus is very much likely to spread in these types of events. Let's take a quick look. So there they are, Jank. They're doing their thing. They're protesting. They're obviously in close proximity to one another. They're not wearing masks. So this is just an incredibly short-sighted way to make your voice heard. I get that people are frustrated about the stay-at-home orders, but you already have one of the organizers for this event testing positive for coronavirus. She claims she's in the clear, and she's going to go out there and participate today. And she feels that her constitutional rights have been violated. She says, "I've been told not to participate in public or private accommodations as requested by the government, and therefore denied an amendment right to freedom of religion." She also says it has been insinuated by others that if I go out, I could be arrested for denying a quarantine order. However, the Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits discrimination by employers, places of accommodation, and state and local government entities. Where do we draw the line? You have a highly contagious virus, okay? A disability is not contagious in the vast majority of cases. These people are so unbelievably narcissistic, self-absorbed, and do not care about anyone other than themselves. It's incredible to me.
Gee, I wonder why they selected Donald Trump as their leader. The guy who doesn't care about anyone else but himself. He's a perfect representative of them. So, look, I love this story. I think it's hilarious. And I know we're supposed to yell at him and we're supposed to show empathy. And yes, we have real concern because we care about them too, and they know people that are not insane right-wingers, and that spreads, and it spreads to everyone, okay? I know all that, but still, dude, she's got coronavirus, and she's going to go to a rally where they're like, reopen, right? So, hey, look, guys, when she gets there, hug it out. She's a person of courage. You know, you guys are true believers, right? I mean, who cares? Who cares? So make sure you hold hands and raise her hands up high. She's your champion. She's out there giving you coronavirus to show you how much freedom she believes in. Freedom and coronavirus for everyone. So I am genuinely curious when she gets there today. I hope there's a camera there somewhere. Like, are they going to be like, oh my God, you're so brave, and they're going to rally around her? Or are they going to be like, oh, totally, man, reopen, but like, hey, could you stand? You know what? I gotta. My wife, she needed to move the couch. I gotta go, but I'll be back later though. When because you got coronavirus, I'll be back later. Come on. I keep thinking in every one of these stories, are they really that stupid? And the answer is definitively yes.
Well, they certainly distrust the health experts. They distrust the press. They distrust all the people that they really do need to trust in order to stay safe. And look, if this was something that only impacted the person who decided to be part of the protest, then sure, I believe in liberty. Like, I don't believe in laws that ban certain kinds of drugs because some people might hurt themselves with those drugs, right? I believe in regulations that keep children safe from those types of drugs. But like, you're an adult and you want to harm yourself, have at it. I don't really care. I have other things to worry about, right? We can't be policing the lives of every single person. But there's a difference when your behavior can kill others. That's where the difference is. They don't seem to understand that, right? Personal liberty is different from taking part in behaviors that puts the health and safety of the general public at risk. I don't know why this is a difficult concept to, really grasp. But if she doesn't care about strangers, then she should at least care about her family members who she's exposing to this virus through behaving this way, going out there, exposing herself further to the virus. And we have seen some studies indicating that if you've tested positive for COVID before, there is some likelihood that you can test positive for it again. It doesn't mean that you're tested or you get it once, you get over it, and then that's it. And either way, you don't know how your family members are going to react to the virus. I want to read a quick member comment from Herkles, who brings up a really good point. The death toll has surpassed the death toll of the Vietnam War today. I predict that with states reopening, we will get a death toll higher than all wars combined, over 1.3 million. I hope that I'm wrong. And I hope you're wrong too. But I think you're unfortunately right, because we're not all on the same page. I mean, different states are reopening in different ways. Some are being way more responsible than others. And we all live in the same country. So all the hard work by states that actually took this seriously will be undone by right-wing states that have decided that they don't actually care about their constituents. They would much rather reopen things far too early.
Yeah. So first of all, if you want to have your comment read during the live show, tyt.com/join. Those are our members, and we read their comments throughout the show. And the show's live, obviously, at 6 o'clock Eastern, but the interviews are at 5:30 Eastern now. Okay. In terms of this, look, I know everybody else doesn't say it because of political correctness, but that's why we're different on the Young Turks. The Republicans are the not bright party. They're just not that bright. They purposely deny things that bring you facts. Science, professors, journalists. That doesn't mean that all professors are right. Certainly not all reporters are right. But those are folks trying to bring you facts. And the Republican Party wants to replace all of that with their propaganda because the facts don't suit them. And they get their followers to follow them because they bask in their ignorance. I mean, so this lady, she was unsure about coronavirus. She wants to open it back up. Not that big a deal. She gets coronavirus. But does she learn anything from that? No. And then she selfishly goes out into the middle of a packed crowd, because we just showed you the video, right? Those are packed crowds, and full well knowing she's got coronavirus, because she still, despite all available evidence, she still doesn't really believe in the science. And so scientists told her she'd get coronavirus. She did. Scientists say you will spread coronavirus. Either she doesn't believe it or she doesn't care. She's like, yeah, but it isn't me. And apparently in her case, it wasn't that severe. And that's, by the way, happens in a ton of cases where it's not that severe. So she probably thought, well, if it only happened this much to me, this is what'll happen to everybody else. Because they live in a black and white world, and only their perspective matters and nothing else does. That is a very narrow focused, short-term, and honestly ignorant party. So in terms of the black and white issue, so they think, all my rights are unlimited. That's just not true. So, Second Amendment, I have a right to bear arms. I can bear any arms. No, that's not true. You can't have a tank. You can't have an RPG. You can't have a nuke. It's not an unlimited right. The First Amendment, I love the First Amendment. I don't know that you'll find a bigger defender of the First Amendment than me. But it's not an unlimited right. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater because it endangers other people. You also cannot go into a crowded theater with coronavirus and spread it to everyone. That you don't have a First Amendment right to do that based on your religion or anything else. So it's a balancing act. It leans towards the right, but the state does have the ability to, when it endangers other people, to override that. But that requires nuance and intelligence. You think anybody at that rally has that? They're like, no, me have rights. Me give you coronavirus. That's my right. No, it's not your right to give us coronavirus. It's not how it works.
Well, one of the people behind the scenes who's pressuring governors to reopen is unfortunately Donald Trump. So there's an update to that story that I want to share with you all. So CNN has obtained audio of Donald Trump's recent phone conversation with governors. And unfortunately, despite all of the warnings to avoid doing this, Trump is starting to pressure governors to open certain parts of their states, including their public schools. So he was quoted as saying, some of you might start thinking about school openings because a lot of people are wanting to have school openings. It's not a big subject. Young children have done very well in this disaster that we've all gone through. So a lot of people are thinking about the school openings. And I think it's something Mike Pence that can seriously consider, that they seriously consider and maybe get going on it. And I apologize. I always have a difficult time reading his quotes since they usually don't make much sense. But what he's essentially trying to do there is, plant that seed. Hey, maybe it's time to open up some of these schools. Keep in mind that 43 states, as well as Washington, D.C., have ordered or recommended that schools don't reopen this academic year. Other states have only recommended that local officials continue supporting students through distance learning models. So, using some of the teleconferencing in order to teach some portion of the classes. Those states are California, Idaho, Kentucky, Maine, South Dakota, and Tennessee. The Montana governor has given school districts the option to begin in-classroom learning as early as May 7th. And if you look at the growing number of people who have contracted coronavirus and also have died from coronavirus, it's still too early to do this, but this is what Trump is encouraging them to do. One other part of the call, Cenk, that I wanted to tell you about is Trump directed a question to the governor of Nevada and specifically asked if there were any plans in place to open Las Vegas, some of the casinos. And it's not like Donald Trump would have any type of financial interest himself, right, to open Vegas back up. It's not like he has a casino in Vegas and he's concerned about that.
Yeah.
Of course he does. And so this is what's going on behind the scenes.
It's actually technically a hotel. And I don't know why anybody would ever go there, even before he became president. It's like the most useless building in Las Vegas. And I say that as a fan of Las Vegas. Anyways, but gee, out of all the states, he happened to pick Las Vegas, a place where he has a property. I don't know why he would do that. He happens to be really good friends with the governor of Florida and lets him do whatever he wants, as long as, they reopen real quick, where he has more properties. These are wild coincidences. I'm going to come back to that in a second. But in the first part of the call, when he's telling people, basically, open up. Look, I want you to understand what he's doing, especially what he did with Georgia. Trump A/B tests things, right? And I've been telling you this for 5 years now. He'll go in front of a crowd and say two completely contradictory things and see what they respond to better. Because he has no moral core. He has no actual ideology. He used to be a Democrat. He was an independent. He's a Republican. He doesn't care. And he didn't change anything based on finding out new facts or an ideological shift. No, he used to be pro-choice. Now he claims to be pro-life. Why? Because it's expedient, right? So what he's doing with the states is he's basically A/B testing. And especially with Georgia, he gets Kemp to open up so that Georgia becomes a petri dish. Well, let's see how Georgia turns out. But then, and this I'll give him, it's a rare, clever thing. When he goes to screw people over, that's when he's at his best. He then turns around and says, well, I told Kemp not to do it, after he told him to do it in the call. And then if it turns out Georgia is successful and there isn't a flare-up, he's going to come back and say, I told you to reopen. look, I was so right. I told you the real. If it turns out that Georgia turns into a disaster and that petri dish has thousands of extra people die, which he couldn't care less about, he'll then turn around and say, I told Kemp not to do it. You guys heard me say, yeah, I told Kemp not to do it. So this is him saying publicly to everyone else, hey, I got these guidelines. I should get credit for the guidelines. Then he calls up the governors and says, hurry up, open up, because he wants to test. And that's how he's doing it. And then in terms of the corruption, obviously it's really, you think he picked Vegas out of 50 states by accident? Was like, he wasn't like, hey, Governor of Alaska, what's going on? You got to reopen? No, of course he cares about his hotel. They're losing a ton of money on that. There's nothing that he cares more about on this planet. All right, so a related story is Carnival Cruise Lines got a giant bailout, and it turns out, you're going to be shocked, that the owner of Carnival Cruise Lines is a longtime friend of Donald Trump, Mickey Harrison, who also was a sponsor of his television show, The Apprentice. What a shocking coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, this virus has really amplified how deep corruption runs in our government, and how the Trump administration has absolutely no problem using a crisis to their political advantage, or for their political advantage. So when it comes to certain medical supplies, and when it comes to how the small business loans are being approved, it's very clear that red states have been favored by the Trump administration. In fact, during that call with the governors, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis apparently said that supply exceeds demand for testing in his state. Insane. Trump lamented media. Go ahead, Jake.
Sorry, that was insane. That's an insane comment. Finish the quote and then I'll wait.
Yeah, exactly. And then at that point, Trump started complaining about the way the media has been criticizing him regarding coronavirus testing, saying his efforts probably will never be recognized, but maybe it will. You never know. God, he's such a little bitch. Like, constantly crying. How many tens of thousands of people have died under his watch because of his lack of initiative, because of how incompetent he is, and all he can do is whine and cry about negative press coverage. He's not a leader. He's a disgrace anyway.
Yeah. So first of all, on the crying, I joke around on the show, hashtag would a hero, right? And I kid around about, and I do it a lot in the post game. So check it out on tyt.com/join or on Old School. That's another one of our shows that you can get through membership. Anyway, where I joke with my wife every time I do dishes. Would a hero do the dishes in the middle of the day when he's got a lot of work? I don't know. It's not for me to say. Would a hero take out the garbage and the recycling at the same time? I don't know.
Your A/B
would a
testing.
hero? What's that?
I feel like that's your A/B testing.
Right. No, but look, am I looking for a little bit of credit? Of course, right? But at least I have the decency to kid around about it. Okay. Whereas Trump does it literally. He's like, I don't know. He says it to governors when he's the president of the United States with not a hint of irony, sarcasm, or winking or anything. I don't know if I'll ever get credit. I've been such a hero. I mean, 56,000 people have died. That's more than Vietnam. If 1 million people have cases, I said there'd be zero, but I'm not getting enough credit. But you guys want to give me credit? Oh my God. Anna, you call him a bitch. And I guess that's offensive to some folks. But
I don't care.
But would a bitch say that?
How are you not going to think he's a little bitch? How are you not going to think that? His behavior screams, I'm a little bitch. Every day. That's all. He has press conferences dedicated to showing the world what a little bitch he is. How are you going to get offended by that? It is the truth. It's the objective truth. Go ahead, Cenk.
Hashtag would a little bitch. Okay. Would a little bitch cry to 50 governors when they're the president of the United States about how they're not getting enough credit in the middle of a pandemic, which, by the way, they have grossly screwed up? Last thing, back to his corruption. That Carnival story was so outrageous. Wall Street Journal covered it. And then Jim Cramer on CNBC was livid about it. When you get a CNBC anchor mad about crony capitalism, you've really jumped the shark. And so that's where we are with Donald Trump now. I just accidentally called him Donald Drunk. But that's probably also apt.
As Bob Ross would say, that was a happy little accident, happy little mistake. All right. Well, we got to take a break. When we come back, you will not believe some of the images coming out of El Salvador featuring what the inmates are made to do in the middle of this pandemic. We'll be back.
But guys, also a study about prisons here that is massively important. So don't miss that either. TYT.com/go.
I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken when I had first got my license, like 17 years old or 17, 18, whatever it was. And I'm driving, I think, my dad's Oldsmobile. And I parked it in a place where there was 2 cars next to me, really tight spot, and a car behind me. I don't even know how I got in there because I'm a terrible driver. Back then I was an even worse driver. And on the roads I'm okay, but in parking spots I have terrible spatial reasoning and I'm a mess. And on my way out, I hit all 3 cars at once. I broke all records, okay? So I went, as I'm backing out, I went boom, oh and this side hit that car, this side hit this car, and the back hit the 3rd car, okay? And I got stuck. I didn't know how to get out. Like, I went, okay, this, and then I'm like, no, and then, right? And then finally I had to stop, go inside the KFC and go, I'm sorry, I hit a bunch of your cars. They're like, what do you mean a bunch of your cars? I'm like, I don't know.
Wow, there's a B?
Yeah. I'm like, I hit 3 cars. I don't know. So you guys got to come help me, okay? Okay, so 1, my bad. Really sorry about that. Yeah. Okay, number 2, can someone take my car out? Because I don't want to keep hitting your cars, and I'm incapable of taking it out of this spot.
Now baby move that fat, baby move that fat. We thugged out.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. This is Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
Do all of you know the Young Turks?
An outlet like yourself that are willing to cover this story from the very beginning and that weren't afraid to say, hey, this is something that is legitimate.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
Brent Welder is very progressive Democrat. He's a just Democrat. In fact, uncorrupted, not going to take big corporate PAC money. When did you start watching the show and when did you become a member?
So I've been watching for 10 years, an active viewer, but also more importantly, getting out there with causes like Wolfpack.
By the end of our campaign, we had organized about 22,000 individual contributions with an average about $27 a piece. And those initial people were a lot of TYT supporters as well.
In looking at the world in a very different way than corporate media does.
It takes those early people who believe that can really be the seeds of this movement, and that has been the Young Turks.
Thank you, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks.
Thank you to TYT and all the progressives around the country that have our backs.
You know, the first and only interviews that we had tonight to be with the Young Turks as well, because you guys have been here from the very beginning, and that's what this night is all about.
And I thank Cenk very much for the very good work that he does.
Thank you so much for all in this together, and the people are so powerful, and we're gonna get it done.
Thank you for your constant support.
It's a pleasure to be with rebels. I like that.
For all of the help that you've given to the Just Democrats, to Wolfpack, to help fellow progressives, thank you guys, to all the Young Turks members that make it possible.
Hey, this is Edwin. Most of you might recognize me, well, not me, mostly my laugh from the main show.
I mean, it's gonna be hard to get the Uygur maneuver on him.
And today, my talent is Rubik's Cubes. You gotta forgive me, it's been at least 5 years since I've competed. So that's why I'm actually going pretty slow. Watch this.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Jake and Anna with you guys. Let me read a couple of comments for you. Kofefe19 writes in the member section. We shouldn't be surprised that they care more about their so-called liberty over the safety and lives of others. These are the same COVIDiots who are hardcore Second Amendment nutcases. Trista says the death numbers are largely exaggerated. The virus precipitated deaths, but has not been the sole cause of any of the deaths. Trista, I really don't agree with that. I think the fatality percentages are not accurate, and that's because a lot more people have the coronavirus than we realize. We're going to explain that in the next story. Gabby Marita says conservatives lack object permanence. It doesn't happen to them, then it obviously isn't a thing. And Brenda Korn on YouTube Super Chat says, I have to be honest, ever since Bernie dropped out, I've been too discouraged by the world to keep watching the show regularly, but I've kept my membership anyway because what you do is still important. Well, Brenda Korn, we super appreciate that. tyt.com/join, obviously, to be a member. But look, guys, I've got good news for you. As my daughter would say, she wants to show me a movie like Secret Life of Pets 2. She says, Baba, you can't wait to see Pets 2. You can't wait to see it. So May 5th.
He's a good marketer.
I know, right? May 5th. You can't wait to see it. It's a 4-hour extravaganza. New plan for progressive takeover. Now, this one's a little bit longer. It's a 5-year plan. But never surrender. Okay, we're going to do it on May 5th right here on TYT, starting at 6 o'clock Eastern as usual. And let me see that. I don't know if you got the thermometer, Brent, but if you do, tyt.com/go. Let me see it real quick. $9,460. Try to get to 20,000. We only have 2.5 days left. Slight panic time. And by the way, on shoptyt.com, 15% off today of everything. 15 off, 15 off, like this shirt right here. Keep calm and don't forget to wash your hands. Okay? And I think it matches this jacket. That's why I wore it. All right, Casper, what's next?
Okay, I'm just going to let that go. Let's talk about what's happening in El Salvador. The president of El Salvador has issued an order authorizing the police and military to use excessive force, lethal force, if they encounter gang members who they need to defend themselves from. At the same time, the president has also ordered all prisons in the country to keep gang members, inmates, prisoners in these small cells, which have now been blocked off. The bars have been blocked off with sheets of metal, so the prisoners can't see through the cells. The videos, the pictures that are coming out of El Salvador are terrifying. They're jarring because, of course, it's just a slap in the face to any type of social distancing guidelines in the middle of this pandemic. And it really does put these inmates in jeopardy. It'll spread the virus. We already do know that in the United States, for instance, the virus has been spreading rapidly among inmates, and there's been very little protection for them. El Salvador is also no exception to that. So let's take a quick look at some of these images from Reuters. Some of these images have been released by the government in El Salvador, showing just how close the prisoners are to one another. They're not wearing masks. They're barely even wearing any clothing. They're just in their underwear as they're shackled to one another. And the reason why this type of reaction or response has come from the government is because after some period of time where homicides had actually gone down in El Salvador, last weekend there was a spike, and the president believes that the inmates ordered some of these homicides or some of these murders. I don't know what evidence he has for that, but I do know that not every inmate is guilty of what he's accusing them of doing, and what he's doing with these inmates basically goes against their own constitution, their own rules. But this is the kind of reaction, unfortunately, the people of El Salvador seem to favor, because the approval rating for the president is incredibly high.
Yeah, first on El Salvador, and then a super important prison study that shows you that those folks that you just saw in that picture are very, very likely to get coronavirus. These get tough governments, a lot of times the way that they cut down on crime is by doing secret deals with drug dealers and the gangs. So I don't know that that's what happened in El Salvador, but there are experts who believe that that is very possible in El Salvador. So it could be that the president is really mad that they violated that deal, and that's why he's cracking down on them like this. So a lot of times it's toughness on that side. Reagan did this. He also destroyed El Salvador as well. But what he did was he'd say, oh my God, we never negotiate with terrorists. We're super tough on the terrorists. And then he'd cut a secret deal with the Iranians and give them weapons in exchange for hostages. So he negotiated with terrorists. He gave them weapons. He did everything that he said he wasn't going to do. And that's what a lot of right-wing tough guys do. And then they brag about how they kept the numbers down. But a lot of times it's just by solidifying the leadership of those gangs in the first place. So we don't really know what brought the crime down. We do know there was a spike, that's true, recently, and that is why the president is cracking down. Now, in terms of the prison study that I began to tell you about for the members last night in our post game, that's an extra half hour of the show, tyt.com/join to get that half hour, or it's the $4.99 level if you click the join button underneath this video on YouTube. But I want to give you the details. 4 different prisons in 4 different states decided they were going to test most of their inmates to see what they would get. Well, it turns out they found out, holy cow, not almost everyone, but a giant percentage of the inmates have coronavirus. That's the bad news. The good news is an enormous percentage of them show no symptoms. And I don't mean no symptoms for now. It appears, no, they have coronavirus and it doesn't affect them. So if these results are correct and they can be verified by other studies, it is of monumental importance. So let me give you some of the quick numbers. There's so many, but I'll stick with 2 examples. In Ohio, there's Marion Correctional Institution. 2,300 inmates were tested. Of them, 2,028 were positive. Almost all of them that were tested were positive. It spreads like wildfire in enclosed spaces. Now, the great news, only 95% showed symptoms. So, I don't know how long they've had it. I don't know if the 2,300 tested were random or not. So you can't take it completely to the bank, but a lot of the prisons showing the same thing. Let's go to Michigan's Lakeland Correctional Facility. 971 were tested. 642 of them had coronavirus. That's 66% rate. And when you look at it, that number jumps out at you. It's about 2/3 of the prisoners in all the prisons that were tested have coronavirus when they tested all the prisoners. Okay, most of the prisons don't do that. But combined, those 4 prisons, around 95, 96% of the ones that had coronavirus had no symptoms at all. So what is the conclusion of that? If those studies hold, okay, because without big enough clinical trials, you don't know it for sure. But the conclusions appear to be, if it's true, that this disease is way more contagious than we realize, than even we realize at this late date. It spreads so quickly. It's unbelievable. Nothing like we've ever seen. On the other hand, most people who have it, it's no big deal. Now, for the ones who get it and get sick, it's a giant deal. And so that's why over 56,000 Americans have died. Over 200,000 people have died across the world. But the fatality rate is probably much lower than we realize. But since it spreads so quickly, that's why it's led to so many deaths. That's why when I look at that picture in El Salvador, good night, Irene, those guys are almost certainly going to get coronavirus.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to, come off as someone who's being critical of the way another country's dealing with their inmates when we have issues of our own. There have been multiple reports about the detention centers that have put asylum seekers in cages, and they're living in squalor. They're unsanitary conditions to be in, especially in the middle of a pandemic. Even if the pandemic weren't happening, those conditions do scream human rights abuses. And our president gets high marks when it comes to the Republican Party, Republican voters, especially when it comes to the way that he treats undocumented immigrants and people who are literally fleeing violence in their own countries to seek safety here in the United States. Those people have been placed in prisons, essentially prisons, in these detention centers, and dozens of them have already died, not necessarily from coronavirus, but from other illnesses. And that's what we're dealing with. So we need to be critical not only of how other countries are dealing with these inmates, but how we're dealing with people we place in detention. So Old School is next. And in the post game today, we're going to have some great discussions, including Republicans getting Trump real angry. I'll tell you why.
All right, welcome to Old School, everybody. Cenk Uygur, Ben Mankiewicz. Look at this, Vic DiBitetto's back. He was on with me recently. We did an interview. He's, you might know him as the Mad Ranter from New York that ranted about the coronavirus stimulus bill, which is an excellent, excellent rant, worthy of the Young Turks, even better. That's got millions upon millions of views online. Today we're going to talk to Vic a little bit about his background a little bit too, which is what we do with everybody, where he grew up and all that stuff. But mainly we'll be talking about nonsense, as we always do. So what age are you in your head? I love that topic. My wife and I discovered that we are decades apart in our heads. So are people generally happy or miserable or somewhere in between? We might do some coronavirus etiquette and mold. Is it a real issue in America or is it overhyped? These are obvious topics, but you know, it's old school.
Let me just say that in regard to, first of all, Vic, welcome. Talk about nonsense. The greatest thing that has happened to me today is the show starting, because prior to that, Vic and Cenk were just naming towns in New Jersey the way people from New Jersey do. And the conversation only ended because the show started. So I'm eternally grateful that that is now over.
Okay, so let me do two plugs here. Both towns in Jersey. No, I'm kidding.
Rumson. Have you guys been to Rumson?
Oh, Rumson, that's not an old town. That's a lot of money town.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's where Springsteen lives, right? Which is, of course, what
Oh, no, now he's in Colts Neck.
Colts Neck, right?
There's another town you're going to hear.
Yeah. Because Colts Neck's close to the test. Don't get us started, Ben.
I know. It's my fault. I had to make the Rumson joke.
Okay.
Vic,
right.
we had
I'm in Manalapan, which is the gateway to Israel. They don't go to the temple, they go to Wegmans.
Yeah. Oh, that Wegmans is good in Manalapan.
Oh,
No
it's the best. And they're really doing it good with this whole pandemic situation. They're doing a good job.
I literally would go to the buffet at Wegmans at a grocery store to eat lunch.
Well, you ain't going to go to buffets for a long time, believe me. Even when this thing stops, it's going to... They got the sneeze shields now. Imagine what they're going to do in the future.
Yeah.
You probably need a hazmat suit just to get the potato salad.
No, but seriously, like, Trump is calling something the invisible enemy. I don't know if he's calling the coronavirus the invisible enemy or if he's calling China the invisible enemy, although I'm pretty sure that China's visible. But he also thought the F-35 was invisible, like literally to the naked eye. But the real invisible enemy is how long we're going to be without buffets in this country. And I'm glad Vic brought that up, because that's one of the principal problems with coronavirus. For buffet-loving Americans such as myself, we're going to have to go without for a long, long time. That didn't really sink in until you just said it, Vic. And so I think this is going to affect our conversation later about how happy people are in general. Okay. All right, let me do two quick plugs, guys. First of all, of course, Old School brought to you by shoptyt.com, where you can get this great shirt. If you can read this, you're not practicing social distancing. See, Vic had to get closer to read it.
I like that.
Okay, so it's an excellent social distancing shirt. Shoptyt.com. All right, and Vic's got a new comedy album that just came out, Working Class Zero. It's on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, and Sirius XM. I don't know why I paused between X and M. Anyway, but check out Working Class Zero. Vic, I know you got that nickname, and then what is it, the Comedy Donkey?
The Donkey of Comedy.
The Donkey of Comedy.
Of course, I'm doing it the hard way. I'm still breaking my ass out here. You know, I'm doing this 35 years, and fortunately, this thing went viral during a pandemic. I mean, if I could change it all and have my career back the way it was, I would give up that viral video. Believe me.
Yeah, of course. We talked about it during the interview because you got to go do stand-up and you need a room.
The pandemic affected your career?
Well, all my personal appearances were canceled. All my live performances canceled. I'm talking about 1,600-seat theaters. Red Bank, the Count Basie Theater in Red Bank, the Borgata in Atlantic City. I mean, it's insane. The world just stopped. You know, it's not just me. It's everybody's affected by this thing.
Yeah,
it's scary. I put on the news. It's one depressing story after the other. I told my wife, just don't even put the news on anymore. You know,
Well,
we're taking this a day at a time.
Yeah, since I run a news network, I'm going to say that's a bad idea. I think you should be watching news nonstop. Okay, and secondly, comics and buffets are hurt worse than people realize. But the minute Vic told me in that interview, or reminded me, hey, you know, all the comics we go and do stand up in a crowded place. I was like, oh my God, you're right. Like you guys are all gone. Your work is. And then I remember like guys like Alonzo Bodden, who's on the show all the time. He does cruises. That's gone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Ida's on the road nonstop. Ida Rodriguez, another comic that's on the show. You can't go on the road. It just goes. It's just devastation, and that might last longer than other jobs. That might come back a little quicker. So, yeah, those are the downsides.
Well, they say necessity is the mother of invention. So now comics are going to start going on Zoom and doing the virtual comedy, and we'll see how that works. It's not going to be the same as a live audience, but you know we have no choice.
Yeah. Virtual laughs probably not as good as actual laughs.
No.
But all right, let's dive into one of our fun stuff. So I was talking to my wife, and I realized, and I say this from time to time, I'm in my head, I'm 16. That's why I get along with the kids so well, because you know, I never grew up in my head. I might be 50. But I don't feel 50. I feel 16. Yeah. That's why I still think the fart jokes are a little funny, right? Yeah. That's why, you know, and my wife is exasperated by that. And then I said, well, don't you feel 16 in your head? And she's like, no, not at all. And I was like, oh my God, I assumed everybody was 16 in their head, but that's just me. So I asked her, how old do you think you are in your head? And she said, 80.
Wow.
Wow, right?
That is so hot.
I agree with you. How about that expression, boys will be boys? You know, I still feel like I'm 16, 17, a teenager. You know, I never felt better in my life mentally and physically, you know, up here and down there.
Oh, well, good to know. Good to know. So we got two 16-year-olds apparently here, Ben. How about you? What do you think?
I basically think that I am my age. So, you know, I feel 39.
Sure. Yes, of course.
No, I mean, the degree to which, and I love Wendy, I love your wife, the degree to which it would bum me out to hear that my wife thought of herself as 80. I mean, it's a little crushing.
Yeah, that's.
No, we balance each other out. But you should see the dinner table where I'm goofing around with the kids about poop and this and that, and she's looking at us like,
yep. And God forbid I let one loose. Forget it. I'm on the. Can I curse?
Yes, on this show you can.
I'm on the list. If I fought, I got to get up. Listen to this. We have a cat, and I you know, I'm at that age. I got to pee in the middle of the night. And then once I get up like 3 a.m. to pee, she says, don't get up, because then the cat's going to get up and start jumping on. So what do you want me to do? Pee in bed? You want to wear Depends? I got to pee. What do you want from me?
Don't get up. Don't get up. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, hook up a catheter. I'll pee in a catheter. What do you, I got to go.
Yes, from time to time, all spouses and women could do a similar show with complaints about us. Have unreasonable demands. Well, you know, for me, my wife is joking around about this all the time with her friends, and we talked about it on Old School before. I think the smallest things that I do around the house is heroic. I started hashtag would a hero, right? So I was telling Ben on a previous show, you know, I finished up some mayonnaise. There was a little bit of mayonnaise left, and I finished it up. And I was like, would a hero finish the mayonnaise? I don't know. It's not for me to say. and it's because my wife hates having a little bit of something left around, right? And for me, that's like we had lunch outside in the backyard yesterday. We kind of did a picnic. It went great, and I have a whole bunch of these little leftover snacks, right? And it drives her nuts to see those little leftover snacks. But for me, I'm like, that's my buffet. And look, all the real buffets are gone. So I got a little Debbie, little Debbie snack. I got a third of a corn muffin, and something my mom made. I'm like, that's it. That's my buffet. You got to let me have it. And this morning, she was going to throw out, and because of the mold, which is another topic we're going to get to, she's obsessed with mold. She's going to throw out this tiny little piece of bread left at the end of the last piece of the roll or whatever.
Yeah.
And I snuck it away to my room, or she banished it to my room, more accurately. And this morning I ate it, and I was like, baby, would a hero eat the last piece of bread?
Yeah. So, Vic, you got to understand that it's every moment you spend with Cenk, and he and I have been friends for more than 20 years now, close friends, and it's not just that he would tell that mayonnaise story. It's that mayonnaise story would get told, get basically the reaction it just got, and then he would bring it back the next week because he was just so pleased with it. And now it turns out there's a whole other level to it. There's a whole other bread angle to the story. Who could have seen eating the last piece of bread as being the sort of show-stopping material as that mayonnaise bit? It's good stuff, Vic.
Let me get this straight. Did you bring that piece of bread up to bed with you?
No. This room that I'm in is a tiny little room that's in the back of the house close to the kitchen. So this is my room.
Yeah,
the bedroom's her room. Every other room is her room.
See, I have a shed. That's where I go. My shed. That's where I go.
Vic, you don't understand. They're 80 years old. They have separate bedrooms now.
There you go.
So Ben, seriously, what age are you in your head?
I think I hated turning 50. So I sort of like to think I loved being a man in his 40s. I felt like I was getting stuff done. So I like to still think of myself as, 46, 47, but that's silly. I mean, I'm only 6 years away from that. So I basically see myself as I am. It's not so bad.
Yeah.
What should I say? I'm going to be 60 years old next year.
Is that right?
Yeah, I'm 59.
50, no, I get how that works. 50, it blew. Like I was into every age I turned until 50, which just sort of, it stopped being fun. I have the same birthday as my daughter, who's young. She's 7. And so it's happy day. She turned 4. It's her 4th birthday, and I turned 50, and it was brutal.
Well, that's one good thing. I'm 59. My son is 33, and my daughter is 25. See, me and my wife, we got married at 22, and not because we had to get married. The first couple of years I kind of regretted it, but as the marriage went on, it's pretty cool. I got a 33-year-old son I can hang out with. I smoke pot with my daughter. It's great, man.
So do I. I also smoke pot with my daughter. It's great. It's California.
My daughter was a pastry chef. She's very creative. One night I come home from a show. She made a bong out of an apple. So I come in the backyard. I smelled the weed. I'm like, Victoria, what are you doing? What about the neighbors? Sorry, Dad, you caught me. I'm smoking weed. Didn't you smoke weed? I'm like, is Mommy still sleeping? How do you do this? So she showed me, you got to cover the hole. And the thing is, I got high with my daughter, but I got the munchies. I ate the apple. She would talk to me for a month because I ate her bong.
Well, that's going to be the title of her book, When Daddy Ate My Bong.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah. Well, okay, don't ever get high. Don't ever get high before you take a shower. One night I stayed at the shower head for 45 minutes. I didn't even turn the water on.
I've had some of my best epiphanies high in the shower, so I actually highly recommend it.
Yeah, we've all been. Many of us have been with Cenk when Cenk is in that situation, and it's fun
Though
for a little
not
bit.
in the shower, exactly.
You've been in the shower with him?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, I told you we're friends, Vic. Come on.
20 years, Vic. I mean, what, you gonna not go shower with a guy after 20 years?
Yeah, like what kind of friends do you have, Vic? You don't shower with them? Jesus.
Not that that's a bad thing.
No, of course not.
I tried showering with my wife. Oh, what a production that turned out to. Oh my God. Oh, this isn't working. I'm going to get infected. It's making a funny noise. And there's no lubrication. I'm like, you know what, forget it. Just go out. I'll dry you off. I'll meet you in the bedroom. I'm trying to spice up the marriage here.
So you were saying, Ben, you've been with me.
Oh yeah, Cenk High is great for a little bit, and then it's the kind of guy you want to have at your show, Vic, because then Cenk just starts laughing and does not stop until about 2 hours later when he says, "I gotta go to bed." After 2 hours of laughing nonstop, you don't know what he's laughing, and he's not just laughing. It's like one continuous laugh.
Which is, look, man, my theory, and I'm sure it's actually not my theory, is that that marijuana accentuates your personality traits, right? And I'm sure a lot of things do that, but I think weed does that. And so I'm generally a happy person who likes to savor things, who likes to enjoy things, and who loves to laugh. So when I get high, I can't stop laughing. Which, hey, man, that's not such a bad thing, right?
No. Especially at a comedy club. I wish more people would laugh like that.
Yeah, yeah. Like the other day, I became convinced that Joe Biden praises his wife too much. I'll clean it up a little bit. Like in his little short bio at the end of op-eds, it's like 2 sentences long. The dude's running for president, and half of it is proud husband to Jill, Dr. Jill Biden, blah, 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 blah. Like, all right, dude, we got it. You're laying out a little thick, right? And every like event, like, oh my God, Dr. Jill Biden. I got it, dude. I got it. Anyway. So, okay, now let's go to we're getting through these topics. We've got 1 through 1 in 17 minutes. We're going way faster than we normally do. So that leads me to the happiness topic. I think my wife and I were having a dispute over this too, because I was explaining to her that I'm one of the most successful people on earth. And she said, she had the temerity to disagree. Already weird. And I said, look, yeah, I'm nowhere near the richest, obviously. We could use help there, right? I'm nowhere near the best looking, could use help there, etc. But I enjoy things much more than the average bear does. So like this cake that I'm eating, I enjoy it so much more than anyone else. And that's really the point of life, is to get the most out of life. And hence I'm the most successful. She's like, hold on, let me get this right. She looks at my gut. She knows our bank account. She's like, but you're the most successful because you like cake. She's like, I got news for you. We all like cake.
Is it a little piece of cake that's saved with the mayonnaise?
No, but it was a little piece of cake. That's nothing to do with the mayonnaise, but it was hazelnut cake. That is delicious. Okay, unreal. And I have it sometimes with a little banana on the side. Hello. Okay, I'm not saying I'm the most successful. I'm just saying. So that led me to the question, though. How happy do you guys think people generally are? Like, are people like generally pretty happy with life, you guys think? Or are people generally miserable? Because it was at the same time as we were watching some sort of infomercial or interview with Gwyneth Paltrow, and they were talking about how, you know, you got to do something, zap this or that, and electrolytes this or that, because everybody's always miserable. But if you do this, then you won't be miserable anymore. And so what's your guys' experience?
I think people are generally miserable, especially now what's going on. I mean, just go on any comment anything on Facebook or YouTube. It's always negativity and hatred, and people, they complain about everything. You know, I think people are generally miserable. I mean, me, I'll tell you, I won't only tell you that the glass is half full. I'll tell you what's in it doesn't even taste right.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think, Ben?
I think that I think circumstance plays a significant role, obviously, but I think basically life is hard, and we're not really fully equipped to navigate it. And like every generation has felt like things have sped up for them, but the last 50 years, last 25 years, there's been nothing like it, and it's really hard to keep up. Yep. And then we've added this the anxiety, forget what we're dealing with right now, but adding social media, which just seemed to transform pretty quickly from this great tool for us to communicate into this sort of insidious monster that will add anxiety to every moment of your life. Now, obviously, that's my world, so it might not be everybody else's, but it's hard to navigate life, hard to navigate relationships, hard to navigate children. So you have to be incredibly sort of, I don't know, emotionally advanced to have this sort of emotional intelligence to navigate it successfully. And most of us don't have it, so myself included. So that makes it hard.
I wish I had your vocabulary.
Yeah, I'm not sure I used most of those words right, just for the record.
So yeah, I'm not the crazy one because my wife is saying, yeah, what's the big deal? Everybody's happy, but I don't think that's the case. No. My general sense is that most people are not happy, and it's ironic because she's a therapist, and that's what keeps therapists in business. People don't generally go to therapists going, hey man, you're never gonna believe this. I'm ecstatic. I just wanted to share it with someone.
Yeah, maybe did you ever? It's basically turn out Wendy's like the worst therapist in the world. Like she'll say to somebody like, "It's great, things you look great," and they're like, "Dr. Wendy, I'm suicidal. I've just been telling you about this for 50 minutes. I want to kill myself." And she's like, "That's great. You're terrific. We're all terrific."
Okay.
So many rich people with all the money, they're miserable. They're the worst tippers. They look for the cheapest way out. It's believe me.
And we all, I mean, what's true about humans is it's really hard to want more, right? Hard to not want more. We always want the next best thing, no matter what level we're at. When I, through the course of of other parts of my life, I have, and Cenk, you have too, been exposed to a few incredibly wealthy people. And this guy was on his own private plane, complaining about all the travel he had to do to consistently get people to invest in his fund. He's a billionaire, a flat out billionaire, right? And he's like, yeah, but travel, the hustle, you got to do it. It's backbreaking. And I said what I thought was the same question. I thought of you, Cenk, because I'm certain you would have asked it. And I said to him, Doug, why are you doing it? Like you just said, you just bought a third plane, right? Like do something else. And he was like, it's what I do. Like he wants more. He wants to close the deal. He doesn't need the money. I don't think he even measures it by, can I get up if he's worth, I have no idea. If he's worth 1.6 billion, can he get up to 4 billion? Or if it's 4, can he get up to 6? Maybe that is, but he just can't stop going. And we all want that. We all want the next thing, whether that next best thing is something like with what Vic was talking about in the video, whether that next best thing is something totally reasonable that many of us take for granted, like the next mortgage payment, right? Yeah. Or if it's a healthy meal for our family where you don't have to sweat it. But we've lost all sense of perspective. We have moments that we think will give us perspective. We read stories about people our own age who've died of COVID-19. And we think, man, thank God I have my health and my family who loves me. And then the next day we're complaining because somebody's jipping us on an expense report. Like we can't maintain it for longer than 8 hours.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Hold that thought, guys. For some portion of the audience, tyt.com/join, become a member, get the whole old school. Hey, we're back. I don't know. We do these funny ways of cutting up old school, Vic. So this will be a new episode for some people, but not most.
Got it.
Anyway, Cenk Uygur, Ben Mankiewicz, Vic DiBenedetto.
I want to ask you a question about the video, right? So, my exposure to it, and I saw it, and it was so fantastic and so funny. And I thought right off the bat, so it's where I led me to down a wonderful rabbit hole of your work, because I saw that and I thought I got to find out who that is. That guy is a professional. Like, that just struck me. This guy is professionally makes people laugh. He's an engaging guy. I'm curious how many people did you thought that you were, not that it didn't come from an honest place, but thought you were, I don't know, a cop, because you looked like you were sort of wearing a cop's outfit? Or how many people thought they had just captured an authentic moment that wasn't written by a skilled comedian?
No, a lot of people thought I was just a regular guy. They don't think, see, when the camera goes on, in a sense, I'm acting. But, that's the difference when you're in the shower than in front of a camera. See, I had those thoughts to do what I wanted to do, but, and once the camera gets rolling, I'm a big ham when the camera comes on. I'm not like that the rest of the day. I'd be dead of an aneurysm. But the cop shirt, I support the police. I support firemen, EMS, first responders. I always wear their shirts in the videos. And people see that, they think I'm a cop. They don't know, like you just said, they don't know I'm a comic for 35 years. Oh, it's some angry Italian guy spitting all over his dashboard. They're more concerned with the spit and the curses, but not the point I'm trying to make in the video. It's just amazing. Like you did your homework. You want to see what I was all about, and there you go. I've been doing these videos since 2009. I had another one, Bread and Milk, that went viral in 2013. Eventually, this will die out, and then, people come on and see the next one and say, oh, look at this guy. Oh, he's the guy that did the government message. It's crazy.
I saw a couple.
People don't take the time out to know the true story and the facts. They just blatantly lie. Oh, the angry Italian guy. Do your homework before you start spreading rumors,
But I think it's also the nature of not appreciating the difficulty and skill required to do the kind of art that you do, right? Like I'm not some genius, but I spend whatever that was, 140 seconds that I was able to see of that, right? On Twitter, I think I saw it. And there's just no way, like, I'm like, oh, that is good. That is good. And that is someone who spent time crafting this, and that is executed really well by a professional who knows how to do it. And, as I'm sure you've been exposed to in 35 years as a comic, the number of people who say to you, oh man, I was going to be a stand-up comic too, but then I just decided not to. And you think, yeah, you decided not to because it's too hard and you couldn't do it.
Right. I never gave up, but I never surrendered. When you have a passion for something, I was really feeling that, my career was at the top of its game. I was doing great. And all of a sudden I just had it wiped from my calendar. And I was really angry with that video. I go back and forth with my manager. We talk about what bullet points, what to hit. I jot them down, and then I turn the camera on. And sometimes it takes 5 takes, sometimes it takes 1 take. But that was coming from the heart, from the gut, and it resonated with people. I was really pissed. I'm really scared, man. Another 2 months of this shit. I don't know what I'm gonna do. If the virtual comedy doesn't work out.
So, Vic, how many takes was that one?
That was 1 take.
Yeah.
That was 1 take. And I don't know if you noticed, there's a part of it, I was so steamed up. It was hot in there because I got to keep the car off. I can't be running. The reason why I do it in the car, it's great acoustics. Plus I scream. Totally. Plus I scream. And if I did it in my house, my wife would have a fit. The cat would have a seizure. So I do it in the car. And the thing is with that is, at one point, you notice I unzipped the jacket. I opened the car door, and then you get these morons. You always have the haters. But one thing I learned about haters, the more haters you have, the more successful you are. Oh, look, he's unzipping his jacket. Is that what you got out of that video, you fucking moron? That's the kind of guy that I watched The Godfather, the opening scene in The Godfather, and Marlon Brando's tie is crooked. You fucking moron.
Okay, by the way, I proved my point. It turns out I am the most successful person in America because boy, do I have haters.
Yeah, no, you do.
There
You
you
definitely
go.
do.
You know, Frank Sinatra said it best: "Success is the best revenge."
Yeah. And for me, that largely consists of hazelnut cake.
A little mayo on the side.
Little
That
mayo,
guy.
little bread, little hazelnut cake, little Debbie snack. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying success.
I love eating Little Debbie.
All right. This took a twist a couple of times.
So let me go back to Sinatra for a second. I think I got this good biography of Sinatra right here. So you guys are talking about Jersey, and you mentioned Sinatra. So I'm a host of Turner Classic Movies, and we show a lot of Frank's movies. And I have his theory on Sinatra because he's a complicated guy. Like people loved him, loved being around him, but he obviously could be incredibly difficult, right?
Yep.
And incredibly petty. But he also famously didn't like to do a second take. Like you talked about how many takes you had for that thing. Which, real quick aside, I just did a video for the Salvation Army, which obviously they're doing. They are literally doing God's work out here in LA and across the country, making sure that people are eating and kids are eating. So, and I've hosted this their award show out in LA the last 3 years. It's online here, and so I did a 4-minute video, which I guess is going to run. And I knew that I couldn't do 4 straight minutes. It would just aggravate me and take too long. I wrote it, and then I broke it down. I'm like, I don't know how to edit now on iMovie, so I'll literally cut this into like 6 parts, and I'll just put them together. It'd be easier. I'll get through it. I did a grand total to get through those 6 little sections and those edits. I added it up. I did 58 takes. Like that's how many different to get through 4 minutes. And the end product. It was okay.
Where can I see this? Where can I see?
Eventually, it'll be part of. They'll work it in, and we'll see how much of it even makes it. But it's supposed to start it. We'll see. It'll be on the out here in Southern California. Their solicitation to raise money and help them because there's 75% increase in food demand since March. I mean, real genuine statistics. They've given out 40,000 meals. We see those lines at food banks. Those cars stretching 5, 6, 10 miles of families waiting in line forever just so they can get into the food bank so they can feed their family. I mean, no matter, again, that's the kind of thing that should initially provide us perspective. And it did for me. Like, oh man, look at that. I am not, I know that I can feed my wife. I can feed my daughter. I can feed myself, feed my dogs, and then 2 days later, I'm like driving to 3 different supermarkets because they don't have the right kind of cherry tart, like you inevitably lose perspective.
Yeah, I'd break that cherry tart into at least 3 eating segments. I'm just saying, just nice and easy. Put it as part of the buffet, okay, for a later time.
All right, Frank. Let me get a little Frank Sinatra real quick because you guys are. So I have this theory on Frank and in his psychology, and I really don't know, but he was famous for doing one take. You mentioned Brando and The Godfather. Brando would do multiple takes. He was a method actor, and he liked to get deep into the role. And he found by take 5, 6, 7, even 15, he'd find something else, some little part of the character which might make it better. Frank liked to do 1, 2 max, and then that's it. And he would say that he lost his authenticity if he did more than that. But I think he was afraid of being exposed by better actors, that if he did take 3, take 4, that it would be the same as the first one. That's just even though he was a good actor, I think he undersold himself, but I think that's what's going on in his head.
I heard when they were doing Ocean's 11, he would tell the director, all right, that's it. We're good.
That's right.
I mean, how much power, how powerful is that? You're telling the director when it's okay. I love that.
Yeah. I can't remember. I think it was suddenly he didn't want to do another take. They were moving they had to move the shot around. The light changed, and there was a Ferris wheel that they had to get in the shot. And he left and went to the airport, got on a plane, flew back to Los Angeles. They were shooting in the middle of the country. They were like shooting in Iowa, and he flew home because he wanted to go home and he didn't want to wait anymore. And they don't fire him. Nice. They shut down production until he comes back 4 days later because it's Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. On the other hand, I kick ass at eating cakes. So Look, I don't know who's more successful, Frank Sinatra or me. I don't know.
Jury's
People are
out.
asking.
Jury's out. Hard to say at this point.
Yeah. So, but I do want to. I mean, we could go back to the earlier conversation we're having, though. Like, we have these sense of. I think both of you guys were saying we have this sense of the people we call successful, really wealthy people, famous people, etc., feel better than the rest of us. But I don't think they do at all.
Definitely not. I mean, some do, right? Go ahead, Jay.
I think they're worried about, staying on top. They're scared about losing. They want to stay on top. The whole thing about a career, the journey is the journey itself. And then once you get on top, you're like, wow, how the hell do I stay on top? It's a lot of stress. I'm in a nice position. I'm between a rock and a hard place. I could still go out, restaurants. I do get recognized, but not like, I'm not at that Sebastian Maniscalco level. I don't think that guy could go out with his wife and without getting bombarded. Me, I'll get a couple of people, but then, it's not to that point yet. And I'm happy. I got a beautiful house, a great family. I was making good money, and I told my wife, like right before this pandemic started, I'm like, if everything could stay the way it is, I don't need the sitcom or the movies. I'm doing fine. I got the social media following. I'm doing great with the stand-up. And then, boom, this happened. And now, it's like, I tell you, it puts everything in perspective. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was already talking about it, of course. So anyone who's thinking about it and cares about it can figure it out. And it affects all of us. So all of our lives are affected by it. But, you really crystallized it for me. And both your rant and the interview that we did, I came out of it thinking, man, if this thing lasts 2 months and people are out of money, it's going to get real bad. Real bad.
They're showing on the news. First of all, by the way, I was on Inside Edition. I didn't even know. They played my video. I'm in my couch watching TV. My face comes on Inside Edition. I didn't know they were going to put me on. I was in the middle of a story about people flipping out. They're showing people flipping out at Walmart and parking lots, throwing some guy threw a shopping cart through some lady's windshield over toilet paper. I mean, it's crazy, man. It's going to get to a point where people are desperate. I hope to God it doesn't get to martial law. I hope we don't get to that point. It's scary. The whole uncertainty of the future, that's what's the most scariest part, because this is uncharted waters. We've never been here before,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and we're not. We're not suited for it. We're not used to it in America the way some other countries are used to sort of accepting some degree of authoritarianism. So you already sense it in little ways with the here in California, in Southern California, people flock to beaches in Orange County and Ventura County this weekend. And I can tell just when I'm outside, there's way more people walking around without a mask, and not, Cenk and I, every week we talk about the etiquette of COVID-19 and how, who moves off the sidewalk, who goes into the street, who yields the right of way to somebody else. There are a lot more people not yielding. Like there's a degree of people being fed up, and also people just like, hey man, I got it. It's been 6 weeks or 5 weeks, whatever it's been. I'm going back out. Like that's it. I can't do it anymore. And of course, we're I suspect likely to see more and more. It would help to have leaders who really drove that point home. Some unanimity of leadership to convince people that, no, man, this is not some government plot, man. This isn't crazy. This is working. It's helping. Right. Just bear with us for another 4 weeks, something like that.
Yeah,
I'm all for opening everything up, but just keep social distance, wear the mask. Especially New York, New Jersey. We're getting hit real bad here. So yeah. I say slowly open stuff up, but just you got to wear the mask. You got to stay to 6 feet. I'm fine with that. Look, I don't mind doing a show for half capacity in a comedy club. Man, this is a tough
something. Right, that would be something. Yeah, I mean, you guys feed so much off the reaction of fans, like, right. And that you even if you're struggling, couple people laughing can lead to 6 people laughing, which can lead to 12 people, and then you're out of it. And I'm curious.
Laughing is contagious.
That's right. That's right.
And I'm going to be afraid to laugh because if I laugh, I'm going to spit on the guy next to me. It's crazy, man.
Not a thing I'm often worried about. So I know people are getting crazy because now my jogs, I'm seeing people like where I live. Some folks have chairs or even tables in their front yard. And in my entire life, I have never seen a single person use those. But now people are getting so fidgety, they're actually using the chairs in their front yard.
That's right.
I've started
That's all you're seeing. That's all you're seeing in an Italian neighborhood. They're open on the front with the patio furniture. The garage door is open. We're sitting on our stoops.
Yeah.
Which is stairs.
Yeah, so it's much more of an Italian thing. Yes, it's much more African Americans do it more. It happens more in cities. But when you're jogging in a suburb, there'll be like these almost decorative chairs out front that ain't nobody uses, right? But like in this time, all of a sudden people are eating lunch in their front yard. They're using those chairs. So
Jenk, I'm a stoop sitter. I like my front yard. My wife got decorative chairs when we got this house. And you can't see, like the chairs lean back at like this angle. So like if you sit outside, you're like this, but the street is there. So it's impossible. And it was a rare moment of masculinity on my part. I was like, sweetie, these chairs, they got to go. They're horrible. They cut off the circulation in your leg because they're like, it's so, and I was like, get chairs that I want to sit on and I'll sit on them. And I do. And now it's paid off. We've actually, entertained in the new way that people do that. We've not only put our chairs out, well, the chairs were already out, but then you can come up on we don't have a front yard, but we got steps. And you can come up to to like 2 steps, space, 2 more steps. And we put a couple chairs in the space. It's like 10 feet from us, and people come by. You can sit in those chairs, and we talk like for an hour. It's nice. It's something.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because I also went on a chair crusade the other day, or my case, maybe a chair jihad. I had a chair that I realized I don't like. My wife had bought it, and it was uncomfortable. And I realized that rather than being rude to her, this is all like subconscious. I sat in that chair for like 8 years. And then one day I was like, wait a minute, I hate this chair. I'm going to get a new chair, right? And I went back and actually got my old chair that she had replaced that was in the garage. But by now it's fallen apart. So it kept just peeling all over the thing while I was vacuuming like 3 times a day. And so I had to get rid of that chair. But now then coronavirus hit, and then I got no chairs. And so we drove all the way back to my congressional office in Palmdale to raid my office because, hey, those chairs, we already bought them, right? And we got them, and I brought them back. So I did like this giant pilgrimage in the middle of coronavirus to get chairs I liked because I finally came to the realization that I also deserve things I like.
Check.
And you made up your mind after 8 years. Good for you.
What a man, right? What a man.
Jack, I got a quick question for you. Would a hero drive to Palmdale to steal his own chair?
Well, I don't know, but a hero would finally realize after 8 years his ass deserves to be comfortable.
Well, I like my chairs. We have the Adirondack chairs, the rocking chairs.
Yeah, those are nice.
Adirondack, they're nice. They're on the porch. One for her, one for me. We got a little night table in between, and we sit on the porch, and it's nice. Have a nice Mai Tai or port wine late at night, and that's what I like.
Vic, what you're describing is it clearly tells me you're an American.
Yeah,
that's how Americans are supposed to do it.
And if he's not with me, I light a cigar, because smoking a cigar in front of my wife, forget it. You get the look. What are you smoking that for? It stinks. I'm doing so. She goes to sleep. I light up, and life is beautiful.
Right. Until you got to pee at 3 a.m. and you can't get out of bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Falls apart.
All right. Another one of our kind of shows is over, but we have more for members, tyt.com/join, where I actually have more to say about chairs and mold. We haven't gotten to mold yet. That's very important, obviously. But everybody check out Working Class Zero. That's Vic's new album. It's on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, and SiriusXM.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so check that out. All right. Okay, now this is the portion just for our members. So not that we couldn't say anything before. We can say whatever the fuck we want on this show. But one last thing, guys, on chairs. Ben, you're 100% right. Those chairs that lean back, I hate it. I hate it. I want to sit up. I don't want to especially if it's a forced lean back. Okay, if I want to lean back, I'll lean back. You got to give me an option.
It can be an option.
Yeah,
it can be an option, but you got to be able to come upright. I want to see life. I got it. I live in Santa Monica, California. It's not like I'm seeing, crazy urban life happening, although I like that idea too. My dad loved in DC, loved that he lived in the city and that you'd see people. But especially now, people are walking. Also, I like my neighbors, except for the Nazi. And the and like I like seeing them. They're outside, we wave, we talk. I like that. I like being out there. And we put a little fence up now, a temporary fence, so the dogs can hang out on the porch with me. It's nothing but good. I read and I wave. That's it. That's my whole life.
My father-in-law used to work for the Department of Motor Vehicles. And when he retired, he sat in front of his house in a lawn chair, and he just sat like this to all the passing motorists.
Vic, you sure you're Italian and from New York?
Yeah.
I'm kidding. It's the most obvious thing I've ever seen. Only topped by that story about your grandfather. Yeah. So no. All right. It's new old school rule. Mandatory lean back chairs are unacceptable. Optional lean back chairs is a good option to have. Okay.
The adjustable ones are okay. The ones that you click and there's a
sure.
Sure.
Totally. Of course, sometimes you might want to lean back.
Right. But just to be in I'm in a rocking chair now. I can see what you mean.
Yeah, you don't want to be stuck like that. That's no way to live.
This is good if you go to the dentist or, somebody gives you a haircut, washes your hair. Or if your wife wants to give you a nice
professional shave, that's nice.
Yeah.
I just think that, I was going to say something fairly sexist for me, that, I don't want to say that men should be in charge of all the things in the house that people sit on, because that's crazy, but we should. I feel like we could pick the product and then cede to the style, right? The color or where it goes, stuff like that. But there's too much I grew up with it, and I resent it because it came from my mom. There was an entire living room, and millions and millions of people have this entire living room in our house, the biggest room in the house that you didn't go into because it was a showroom.
Right.
You never would sit there. My mom would never have put plastic on furniture, but there might as well have been, because it was always protected, because it was inconceivable that you would even go there to sit and read for a second. It was banned.
Oh, we had the plastic. Oh, yeah. And we had the picture of Jesus Christ shaking hands with Frank Sinatra.
Okay, well, that right there wins.
And the plastic runner. We had the plastic runner, 43 miles long. Put it in the kitchen and wound up in your neighbor's garage. It was good to have in case a bride rang the bell.
So, okay.
Jolly horse.
You know what it is? A babushka. Literally. That's exactly what a babushka is. You tie it around your head.
Hey, Lee?
Yeah.
Talking.
Your babushka line is being broadcast around the country.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry.
So is that.
But I kind of want to know more about the babushka.
Sorry.
But Vic, you appreciate it. My wife.
For a second, I thought you were a ventriloquist.
My wife is Lee Russo from Hohokus, New Jersey, an Italian from Hohokus.
How did they name Hohokus? Was that after a stuttering magician?
Lee, do you know how they named Hohokus?
I do. It's an Indian tribe.
It's a Native American tribe.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's the answer to any question about the name of any city in America, especially around New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Like there's Wyalusing, Pennsylvania, and apparently Wyalusing was a Native American tribe, and unfortunately named one, but so
wow.
Yeah. And now there's a town called Woodahero, New Jersey. All right, but on the you guys, this is why I love old school. I came to a realization as you guys were both talking about your experiences that yes, it's our moms. My mom wouldn't let me sit on the good furniture either, but the way that materialized in me, or what it did for me, was a subconscious where if someone gives you furniture, you have no choice in the matter. You must use that furniture, and you must use it in the way that it is prescribed. Otherwise, there'll be trouble. And in our case, we didn't have Jesus and Frank Sinatra. We didn't have the plastic, but we also had Turkish antiques. So, you could sit on it, but you'll break it. And then that'll cost a lot of money, and that's, I guess, the kind of person you are. So we had the good furniture, we had the antique furniture. There's a lot of booby traps in my house. That's why it took me eight years to say I don't like this chair.
No, you're once again you're a profile in courage, Cenk.
Well, look, I'm here to serve. So we got to do mold before we run out of time. So this is another difference between me and my wife. She believes, and so I look, either she's an overmolder or I'm an undermolder, okay? And I'm trying to determine what the correct standard is so that I know who's who, okay? She believes there's mold in everything. Like the minute that anything is past 2.5 days, she's like spores, that thing, obvious mold, right? Whereas I honestly, unless I see a giant, big, green, white mold somewhere, I never believe it's mold. Okay, so what is the reality? How often do things get mold in your fridge? Is it like nonstop? Or no, mold is relatively rare.
It's relatively rare. Plus, you got to check the expiration dates. I mean, if I don't see, the only thing that really gets moldy is my wife keeps the English muffins and the bread in a bread basket. That's the only thing that really gets moldy. When I start seeing, the green and the brown, I throw it. I even give it to the birds. The birds will eat it.
That's how we got bird flu. Thanks a lot, Vic. Appreciate it.
I will. An English muffin. Well, first of all, an English muffin, as Cenk and I have discussed many times, an English muffin is among the most underrated food stuff in the world. Like a lot of bagel talk, bagel. I'll take an English muffin, a good, well-prepared English muffin. So you give me an English muffin with a little bit of mold on it. If I really want an English muffin, there's a good chance I'm going to cut the mold off and I'm going to go ahead and toast it. If it's running through it, if it's rabbit all over it, then you got to throw it away. Now, obviously, if something's green and moldy, you're not going to eat it, right? That's obvious. The issue, like that my wife has, first of all, if something comes within is pre-mold and pre-expiration date. So my wife, God bless her, will throw out something if it's like the expiration date is December 19th. On the evening of December 17th, her hand is trembling in eagerness to throw the half and half away. Like she knows it's coming. And in 36 hours, she can totally justify getting rid of it. And so it's the pre-mold that we can't have pre-mold. You can't think something is going to get moldy and throw it out. But that is how Lee Russo from Hohokus, New Jersey goes through it.
Hey, why not? I mean, people are drinking Lysol and Clorox now.
We're out of Lysol, so I've been spraying Downy wrinkle releaser into my throat, and it goes down smooth. But I don't know if I'm pure.
And I've been wiping my ass with these.
Okay, I'm sorry I don't have any props with me. I didn't know we were bringing props. Although the laundry room is right there.
Whip out a cake or a chair.
Well, I do have chairs. I do have that. That I'm good on. So you know what I'm getting out of this whole episode of Old School? Women are older in their minds than men, generally speaking. Okay. We'll have to do a little bit more clinical trials on this. I don't want to be a Donald Trump and say I got this thing figured out, but so far that's the direction that it's going.
You mean the sample size of one? You're prepared to say that's the direction it's going?
No, because before I'm fair. When it was sample size of one, which is me, I thought maybe I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. That's why I asked 2 other dudes. Now we got a sample size of 3. Now we're cooking.
I don't think my wife. I think my wife thinks she's younger than I am. Just I don't want to screw up your poll.
No, well, 2 to 1. No, it's fair. You got to tell me that. You got to tell me that. 2 to 1.
I'm going to ask my wife when I go upstairs after this. So if you don't see me after tonight, there's your answer.
Okay. By the way, here's the most interesting thing that I found on mold, because as soon as you said you want to talk about mold, I Googled mold, right? And first of all, every time you read a professional dictionary definition of a word, you just realize how stupid you are, because you couldn't possibly come up with that definition. Like when my daughter's reading and she'll stumble upon a word, she'll be like, what does disingenuous mean? I'm like, well, it means you're not being ingenuous. And then so mold.
My son literally did that to me yesterday. He's like, Baba, when you put the word you're describing in the definition, that doesn't help me at all.
Yeah, totally. My friend who Cenk, Jim Altman, he's a reporter in Hartford at one of the affiliates in Hartford, Connecticut. He's a very funny guy. And when we went to school together through 7th grade, and on a vocab test, like, I don't know if the word, let's just say it was disingenuous. And his answer, whenever he didn't know a word, and they had to use it in a sentence, he would say, the boy was asked to use the word disingenuous in a sentence.
Yeah. By the way, Poe does that all the time.
Degree of genius. So mold is defined as a hollow container used to give shape to molten or hot liquid, such as wax or metal, when it cools and hardens. I'm just stunned that that's the first definition of mold. Like, you would think mold would be the first definition of mold, not molding clay.
Well, don't forget, there's also the mold on walls, that black mold, and that stuff is dangerous.
That's dangerous. Yeah. That's right. But if you got a little tiny speck of mold on a raspberry, it's fine. You'll be fine. Your kid will be fine. Pretty sure your kid will be fine.
Make a frosty.
That's right. Put it in a blender. Doesn't matter. It all goes away. The second definition of mold is a distinctive and typical style. Like, oh, we broke the mold, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, into the mold. Like, when do we? It takes forever just to get to the mold, the thing that we're talking about.
By the time you get to that definition, there'll be mold on the page.
Totally fine. I got to go all the way down. Mold. Finally, a furry growth of minute fungal. Look at this. A furry growth of minute fungal hyphae, occurring typically in moist, warm conditions, especially on food or other organic matter. And then their example of using it in a sentence is, and I'm sure both Vic and Cenk, you would have used it this way too, quote, mold may flourish unhindered. Fuck off. Who talks like that?
And by the way I would have used it is the boy had mold.
That's right, totally. The boy had mold in his toes.
So that's the second conclusion I'm reaching, which is that women are more concerned about mold than men. Okay, so there we appear to be. Vic, I don't know. Vic might be. What do you think, Vic? You or your wife more concerned about mold?
I think she is.
Yeah.
George Carlin, who was my idol, had a famous bit. He would go, "This doesn't smell right. Taste it."
Vic, you're awesome. So keep up the good work.
Nice meeting you.
And I look forward to seeing you on stage when this is all over.
Yeah. Yes, nice meeting you, and I wish I had your hair. My God.
Yeah.
Remember, Vic, quarter than a dime.
Quarter the dime. Make it shine. Make it shine.
Dimes for the
try
shine.
that now. I'm gonna try that after I asked her how old she thinks she is.
Okay. All right, perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. See you next time. All right, back on the post game. I have to tell you, part of the reason I'm in a good mood is this is, I don't know if it's weird or not weird, but you know, a lot of times the news puts us in a bad mood, right? We get animated about it. But that stat about 95% of the prisoners not having symptoms, that cheered me up, man. That actually cheered me up a lot. Like, you know, if most of the people who get it are not affected, okay, that's good. That's good news. But damn, it's contagious. Jeez, Lord mercy, it's contagious. All right. Anyways, I told you I'd give you a tiny little cutie kid story. It's amazing how many times kids will watch the same movie and be excited all over.
It's amazing. It's incredible. Yeah, my niece does the same thing.
And I once read Malcolm Gladwell had it in one of his books. It turns out kids' brains are wired differently. In fact, they're not wired. And the repetition helps to wire the different synapses together. And so there's an actual scientific reason why they love the repetition. I hate the repetition. Even a movie that I absolutely love, I'll almost never watch it a second time. A third time is...
You hate repetition? You hate repetition.
Oh, I feel like somebody's getting at me. That's what I feel like.
100%. Cenk, you are the king of repetition. You repeat the same point in the same video like a billion times. And I'm like, we got to go. We got to go, Cenk. You already made this point. Why are you repeating it again?
I've never repeated a point in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Not
okay.
in the
Okay.
No, but like seriously, in the middle of a story, I don't think I have. I have specific things to say, and I go one by one. If I've ever repeated something, it's because I lost my train of thought, and I'm trying to remember the other point I was going to make. Anyways, it's supposed to be a cutesy story, not an eye-rolling story, Casper. Okay, I can give you an eye-rolling story.
Okay. All right, I'll calm myself down. All right, go ahead.
Anyway, that's why Joy's watched The Secret Life of Pets 2 like 18 times. And she's watching it in the middle of the afternoon after she finished her homework. And she's snuggling on the couch and she's got those big cheeks and stuff. And she looks at me and she goes, Baba, you can't wait to watch this. You can't wait to watch it. So she wants to watch it for like the 90th time tonight after the show.
It's amazing. Yeah, my niece is on a Bambi kick. And so like I FaceTimed with her to like watch some of it with her, you know, spend some quality time. And man, Bambi sucks. Like it's a terrible movie. Like it's pretty bad, right? Am I the only one who thinks that Bambi sucks?
No, all the old time fables are disastrous. They all end in like chainsaw massacres.
I know, seriously.
Like I think back then, like, you know what though? You might have liked those better, Casper, because you're salty, right? And they taught people life is tough, deal with it, right? And they taught kids at a really early age. There's no ice queens. There's no building a snowman. Okay, here's what happens in Bambi. His mom gets slaughtered, and then we eat his mom. Okay, that's what happens to Bambi. And you know what happens to Hansel and Gretel? They go in the woods, and then there's this lady. She's going to chop them up and eat them. That's what she's going to do. So don't go in the woods. Okay. By the way, Wendy's from the old school. So she has the kids watch terrifying pandemic movies so they know not to go out of the house and mess around, okay? So she's like, this is what happens when you mess with a stranger, Larry. I'm mixing two different things. Did you ever watch The Big Lebowski?
I did, yes. I wanted to rewatch it. I watched it several years ago, and I remember really liking it. But I do want to rewatch that. No, but I wanted to make a quick comment about Wendy because her parenting style, based on what you've said, reminds me a lot of my mom's parenting style, where it was like anytime I was curious about something dangerous or not good for me, she'd be like, yeah, here, experience it. Go ahead. How you like that, huh? Like
That's so
if she's drinking, she's drinking coffee, like black coffee. I'm a kid and I'm like, ooh, mommy, what's that? I want to have some coffee with you. She's like, oh, okay, here you go. And by the way, it was Turkish coffee, like mud. It's mud. It's just straight mud. That's what Turkish coffee is. Like, admit it, everybody. If you've had Turkish coffee, you know what I'm talking about. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to drink coffee in my life. Of course, that changed later. But as a kid, didn't touch the stuff.
Yeah, I hear you. But there's bounds of reason. Yeah, every parent at some point has their kid taste alcohol. So they'll go, blah, right? And then not have alcohol, hopefully, for another decade. But Wendy takes it too far. She's like, okay, no, don't look both ways when crossing the street. I hope you don't. I'm like, babes, that's not a thing where you learn a lesson. That's a thing where you get run over by a Mack truck and there are no more lessons. Okay.
One time when I was a kid, I got mad at my mom because she was, I don't know, reprimanding me for something. And I was like, I'm going to run away. And then I like stomped out the front door, like thinking she's going to come after me. She's like, okay, see you later. She closed the front door and locked it. And I started crying like outside immediately. Like, let me in.
I've seen your Throwback Thursday kid pictures. And so I can picture that pudgy little face crying, oh, let me back in. Just like 100%. The 2016 election all over again. What? I randomly just trolled ourselves.
Oh, that's so funny.
Okay.
Yeah, man, we can't wait till election night. Can't wait for your next meltdown video. I don't care. I don't care. Like those comments, like, could not possibly bother me less. Don't bother me at all.
Oh, you guys are crying on election night in 2016. Dude, your president cries on a daily basis.
Yes.
On the daily, he's like, I don't get enough credit. Oh, the reporters don't like me enough. So I can't wait to watch that. You can't wait to see it, Baba. You can't wait to see it.
All right. Well, let's talk about some news, okay? Because this is one of my favorite stories that I wanted to share with our members. So the Trump campaign is lashing out against a Senate memo that was sent out. This is a story that was covered by TYT earlier, but the update is that the Trump campaign is losing its mind over it. Now, the memo urged Republican senators to avoid defending Donald Trump's disastrous response to COVID-19. However, it does say, the xenophobic stuff and the anti-China stuff, that plays well. So if you want, you can go ahead and amplify that, but stay away from defending Trump in, any other way that he's responded to the virus, because it's been a disaster and we might lose the Senate. That was the essence of the memo. Well, apparently Trump and his cronies and his campaign didn't like that. So Trump political advisor Justin Clark told NRSC executive director Kevin McLaughlin that any Republican candidate who followed that memo's advice shouldn't expect the active support of the re-election campaign and risk losing the support of Republican voters. Now, there is some truth to that, because while normal, living, breathing, thinking humans look at the Trump administration and realize what a disaster it is, Republican voters still see him as a great leader. He has very high marks among Republican voters. So if Trump decides that he wants to target a vulnerable Senate Republican, he definitely could, and it could destroy their political future, right? Now, Clark was also quoted as saying, candidates will listen to the bad advice in this memo at their own peril. President Trump enjoys unprecedented support among Republican voters, and everyone on the ballot in November will want to tap into that enthusiasm. The president's campaign, the RNC, and the NRSC are firmly on the same page here. By the way, McLaughlin then responded by getting down on his knees and begging for forgiveness. He responded by saying he agreed with the Trump campaign's position, and according to two people familiar with the conversation, clarified that the committee wasn't advising candidates to not defend Trump over his response. By the way, here's what the response specifically said: don't defend Trump other than the China travel ban. Attack China. Yeah.
That's literally what it's.
That's what it said, yes. So I have more for you, but Cenk, like it's one of my favorite things to see Republicans try to be like the tough guys, and then Trump comes in and he's like, I'm now going to castrate you. And then he does it. And then they all apologize and end up, looking like absolute losers, for the public to feast on.
Yeah, so Anna, that was definitely going to be my favorite part of the story until you just said they try to look like tough guys, which I didn't know tough guys do this to look tough, but okay. All right, so number one, Republican polls ain't nothing to mess with. So when they are talking to the press, they demand political correctness. Don't say that we're wrong about things that we're objectively wrong about. Otherwise, you're biased. You have to call everything 50-50. Could be 99% of the world's scientists say climate change. I say otherwise. You have to report it 50-50. They demand political correctness. But when it comes to their polling, no. They're super real because they have to have the right information to win elections. And the Republicans aren't messing around with that. So their polling indicates if you are racist towards the Chinese, that will work. That is why they're telling the Senate candidates, attack China, make it seem like a Chinese problem. And in the memo, they explain, you'll be called racist. Don't worry about it. Just say, no, I'm not. Okay. This is about the Chinese Communist Party. Okay. So they already know what that's going to result in, but they say do it anyway. So if they're telling those Senate candidates don't defend Trump, that means the polling shows it ain't going to work. You're going to lose. If you defend Trump, you look like an idiot. Don't do it. So now that's why Trump yelling at them and Trump being the leader of the party could finally get to a point where there's going to be just desserts. Okay, so I'll get to that in 1 second. But the reason their polling shows them that and why they're directing him that way is because we're past the primaries. So Trump says, I'll target you. And if he does during a primary, you very likely will lose. But a lot of these folks are already past their primaries. Now they're headed into general elections. Mitch McConnell, even their leader, his approval rating's at 26%. That's disastrous. In a general election, you have to win the middle, the independents. And there's about 15% left of the country that is undecided. Now, of course, it varies by state, etc. But those guys a lot of them have turned on Trump, not the Republicans. That's why in a primary you'll lose if you cross Trump. But in the general election, he's lost at least 2/3 of the independents. So when you have Republican senators in Colorado, which is a swing state that's actually leaning blue, maybe all the way into the future, and you got Cory Gardner there, you've got Maine, you've got all these vulnerable senators. Even in Arizona, they're vulnerable. So that is why the Republican staff memo is saying, Senate memo is saying, don't defend Trump. Pivot. Go do a distraction. Talk about China instead. So now when Trump comes in and gets emotional about that and uses his usual crying and bullying tactic. I can't believe you said mean things about me. Oh yeah. You better not. And so then the Republican officials are worried about their jobs within the bureaucracy in the party because Trump can end them there. So they then turn around and go, I'm so sorry, Master. I'll never do it again. I don't know if they put like a fake hunch just to like complete the picture and the visual, but like, sorry, Master. We'll tell them all to defend you, Master. And so now these senators might just walk off a cliff like lemmings because their leader told them to, which would be awesome. So likely they'll ignore him. They'll say, oh, yes, sir, absolutely, sir. What do you need me to kiss, sir? And probably do the opposite. But if they're stupid enough to listen to him, it'll be the end of them. And the Democrats might have the Senate as well.
All right, well, let's move on to some non-coronavirus related news because there is some stuff going on with Joe Biden. There's a double standard that I really want to call out. So let's talk about it. So Notorious radio shock jock Howard Stern has officially endorsed Joe Biden, saying during his radio show that he's all in for Joe Biden. Now, he also said, you see the wall that's right next to you? I'll vote for the wall over a guy who tells me that I should pour Clorox into my mouth. Listen, I think we're in deep crap. I think we could have been ahead of this curve, meaning we could have, the Trump administration specifically, could have handled the response to COVID-19 much better. Of course, it's been a complete and utter disaster. Now, I bring this up because, look, to be quite honest with you, Howard Stern can go ahead and endorse whoever he wants to endorse. I really don't care, right? But there's been a lack of outrage in regard to this endorsement, and I feel like it's very different from the type of reaction from the media, from the pundit class, when Joe Rogan indicated that he was willing to vote for Bernie Sanders. When that semi-endorsement was made, there was all sorts of outrage because Rogan is supposed to be a boogeyman. He's supposed to be a bad, bad boy. He's very naughty. So we have to lash out against him, but more importantly, lash out against the Bernie campaign, which is exactly what happened. Just a few examples I'll sprinkle in for you guys. Joan Walsh, who works with CNN, said, sorry, Joe Rogan is also a Seth Rich truther. That cruelty and insanity is a deal breaker for me. Zerlina Maxwell, who also notoriously cannot stand Bernie Sanders, pretended like she was upset about this Rogan endorsement, saying, I do not believe that sexism, racism, and transphobia are disagreements. I think that's the disconnect and something you and others might want to marinate on respectfully, indicating that she feels that, you know, Rogan is a misogynist and all of these other words that she threw out there. And then finally, Sadie Doyle wrote, at the time, if the people you don't like are also the people who substantially work to popularize fascist and red pill thinking in America, then that's not reaching across the aisle. That's reaching over to racism and giving it a high five.
Fascism.
Now, look, if these people who had a significant bias against Bernie Sanders genuinely feel this way about Joe Rogan, that's one thing. But if they felt this way about Joe Rogan, I find it curious that they don't have concerns about Howard Stern endorsing Joe Biden, because there are, I don't know, decades at this point of examples to share with you showing Howard Stern like leading by example in all of those terrible categories that were listed. And we have one example for you. This is from the mid 1990s. It's possibly triggering for some. This was a sketch that Howard Stern did where he's pretending to be Ted Danson in blackface. And he threw the N-word around quite a bit. So here's a little example of that video for you.
Okay, so there are two parts of the story that are equally important. Let's start with the hypocrisy of the mainstream and the establishment. I at this point, I have to confess that I loathe them. I find their hypocrisy vomitous. So Joe Rogan has said bad things. Yes, it's true. And when Bernie Sanders got his endorsement, they're like, oh my God. I mean, you saw that. The Zerlina Maxwell, oh my God, the racism is intolerable and the transphobia, blah, 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 blah. Okay, if you were consistent about it, then I wouldn't make fun of it. I'd say, yeah, I mean, I'm worried about I'm definitely worried about Joe's transphobia. I don't know why he does that. Okay, but then you turn around, and it wasn't just now. I remember when Hillary Clinton, at the same exact time, went on Howard Stern for 2.5 hours. And I know Howard Stern. I know what he said. And they're like, oh, she's such a man of the people. She's such a great person for going on Howard Stern. Howard's so great. Shut up. Shut up, you liars. So now Howard Stern endorses Joe Biden. They're like, bravo. Has Zerlina Maxwell, Joan Walsh, any of them called for Joe Biden to return the endorsement? Nothing. Has anyone in the media talked about it? Nothing. Instead, they say, "Oh, Biden should go on Howard Stern. That's so popular. That's going to be great. That's going to be great." Your hypocrisy is vomitous. It's grotesque. I can't stand it anymore. So, bunch of liars. That's who they are. Understand it. Ignore everything they say. So now, let's talk about the substance of it. Second part of the story. Look, I'm biased in a couple of different ways here. And unlike the liars in the establishment, I tell you things as they actually are, and including my bias. I grew up listening to Howard Stern, and I know that he could be terrible in certain ways. Even when I was a kid, when he did the stuff with the little people, I was like, oh man, he's making fun of them. It makes me super uncomfortable. I hate it, right? But when he did the news, he was brilliant. When he did interviews, he was brilliant. So I grew up watching him. I like the guy a lot, despite the fact that he has said horrific things like you just saw, right? And I just don't believe in cancel culture. I don't believe in it. So I just said it. In fact, cancel culture, I find you to be horribly judgmental, and that's a sin, and I know you get canceled for any sin. So ironically, you're now canceled. I just canceled cancel culture. And okay?
Can I jump in on that, Cenk? Don't lose your train of thought. But I just want to say, cancel culture discourages people from evolving, right? It discourages people from wanting to be better people. And we're humans, right? And we're all terrible in our own ways. And the whole point of living is to grow, is to learn from your mistakes. But when you tell someone after they've said something deeply offensive, possibly transphobic, whatever it is, that you're canceled, that it's over, that you don't deserve a career, you don't deserve any opportunity to be a better person, well, then they don't have an incentive to learn and be better people. And it just needlessly creates this divisive culture. Are some people so far gone that there's really no hope? I think that there might be a few examples, Donald Trump being one of them. I don't think that he could ever grow. I mean, he's already in his late 70s, and he's thrived off of his hatred. But there are a lot of people out there who have said things that are offensive, and they deserve an opportunity to grow and learn from it. That's all I'm saying.
And it depends on what your job is. Are you a talk show host? Are you a comic? Then it's a very, very, very different than if you're a judge. If you can't do nuance, I'm not interested in you. So I'm sorry. If you're a leftist who believes that everybody should be canceled over any transgression that you don't like, and you don't do nuance, then I think you're wrong. And I think that's really unsophisticated. So look, the reason why a lot of people like me didn't mind Howard Stern, despite his terrible failings, is because we had a sense that he was actually kidding. Yes, his job is to be an entertainer, and that he didn't mean it. Now, I know that a lot of people will not get the joke, that he's in on the joke, and that it affects people. So that's why it's a nuanced conversation, and it's an interesting conversation if you have intellectual curiosity. So for me, like, for example, whenever Robin in the news read a Muslim name, and at the time I'm Muslim, grew up Muslim, anytime Robin read a Muslim name in the context of any story, right? The winner of the Kentucky Derby owned by Muhammad El Arya, and he'd be like, guilty. And it was funny. It was funny because I didn't really think that he thought Muslims were guilty. It's a joke. It's a joke, okay? So, but one thing is clear. Whether it's Rogan's wrong comments, and they are wrong, or Howard Stern's, I'm not going to cancel them. I'm just not. And so if you want to say, oh, that's terrible, etc., okay, fine, we disagree. You want to cancel me? Have at it, Hoss. You'd be like the 1 millionth person in the world, okay? And people who cancel people over disagreements are unbearable. I'll just let you know that, okay? So here, I'll cancel you back. Actually, I won't. I'll have you on the air. We'll debate it. You'll cry, whatever, okay? But to me, the worst of the worst is the establishment that uses it cynically. They don't really believe in cancel
100.
culture. And otherwise, they'd all be canceled, okay?
Yes.
They'd all be canceled for the stuff that they've done, right? But the minute they can use it to attack a progressive, all of a sudden they're like, Joe, canceled, Joe Rogan's canceled, everybody's canceled. If Howard Stern had endorsed Bernie Sanders, I guarantee you he would have been canceled by the establishment. They all would have said, to Howard Stern, do you know how many times he said the N-word? Oh my God, I knew, that's it. Bernie Sanders and Howard Stern are canceled. And everybody watching this, whether you're right wing, left wing, or in the middle, you know that what I just said is true.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? I mean, look at how the Tara Reade sexual assault allegations have been handled by these very pundits who claim that they were angry about the Rogan endorsement because of Rogan's misogyny? What? At the same time, their misogynistic takes on a woman who has come forward with very credible sexual assault allegations, not a problem, right? Because when it's politically convenient to use disenfranchised groups of people for their own political benefit, that's cool. They'll do it, right? But you think they actually care about disenfranchised groups? If they actually cared, about doing something about the prevalence of sexual assault in this country, especially sexual assault that's committed by men or women in positions of power, then they wouldn't treat the Tara Reade story any differently.
Yeah.
I mean, Cenk, they went back 20 years and brought up your blogs, which I will admit were not cool. I didn't like them, right? You apologized for them and you've grown. That's the right thing to do. But really, they're gonna clutch their pearls over your old blog posts from 20, 25 years ago. And at the same time, trash and smear a woman who's come forward accusing Joe Biden of credibly accusing him of sexual assault. Get out of here. They don't care about women. They don't care about sexual assault. They don't care about any of it. And I think you're right to be cynical. Your cynical take is accurate here.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. Look, so 20 years ago, I write things that were jokes, but are uncomfortable, right? I read them and I go, that's bad. I shouldn't have said that, even if it was a joke, and it was a joke. First of all, they don't even give that context. So when I said the genes of women are flawed because they don't have enough sex with me, that's an obvious joke. That's about me, not about women. But the New York Times and everybody else goes, no. Jake believes that the woman's genes are flawed. It doesn't matter that he said it 20 years ago. It doesn't matter that he said it as a joke. It doesn't matter he said it when he was a Republican and now he hates Republicans. No, none of that matters, and that's who he is, right? LA Times, CNN, NPR, every one of them, right? Because why? Why? Because they're so heartbroken over misogyny. Then Howard Stern, really? Have you ever seen, I mean, if you don't think jokes count, like that, you don't care that it's a joke, has anyone in the history of America been more misogynistic than Howard Stern? Anyone, period, anyone. If you think, hey, I don't care that it was a joke, well then yes, Howard Stern is the biggest misogynist in America, if that's what you believe. But when he endorses Joe Biden and has Hillary Clinton on, all of a sudden you're like, oh, Howard Stern, oh, I love Howard Stern. He's so cool. You guys are the worst. You're all unbelievable liars and hypocrites. And then what you've done to Tara Reade is some conservative wrote a thing saying that not one person has been consistent on Tara Reade. All the Republicans that said, you have to have overwhelming proof when it's Brett Kavanaugh, now turn around and believe Tara Reade 100% immediately. All the Democrats who said Brett Kavanaugh was the worst have turned around and said they don't believe Tara Reade, right? No, you're wrong, John Ziegler. There's one show that has always been consistent, and it's the Young Turks, because we actually believe in principles, policies. We believe in doing the right things for the right reasons. You should take Tara Reade seriously. You shouldn't cancel people over jokes, and you should do it in a way that is consistent. And yes, you do judge the totality of the person after giving the full context. That's the right thing to do. But the establishment wouldn't know the right thing to do if it hit them across the face, because they don't want to do the right thing. All they want is to maintain the status quo so they can keep their little club where they have all the power, money, and privilege. Keep it real.
All right. Well, some people just We have no more time. Okay. All right, great. So that's it. That's our post game.